soon stream, but yeah.
I'm a never Trump guy. 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 Ever like.
All right. Sorry if I wasn't responding to anything. I was just playing my intro and it was very loud.
Nothing to really respond to at the moment, right?
Excellent.
So we're just bullshitting until Destiny gets here, and then.
Donde está Esteban?
You guys can hear me up?
Yeah. So
How you doing?
so far
Life's
so good.
good.
But, we haven't started yet. We'll find out. Okay.
Testing. Still good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
You sound great, Pisco, and you look great too. Same with you.
Thanks. You do too.
You know, we're all looking pretty well groomed right now.
One sec. Okay, yeah, we're just waiting on the last member of the show, and then we'll get started. Are there any questions or comments or anything that we need to address before we?
What's the official prompt?
Should we be okay? So we're going to start by talking about according to the far left, but let's get this show on the. Okay, hello, can you hear us?
Hi, what's up?
Well, we are about to start the show. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Ready.
Welcome one and all to yet another episode of Wick TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And today we are going to be talking about what I consider a very important issue. Should we be courting the far left? What or who do we consider the far left? Which is more of a threat to America in general? The question was asked, who would you vote for, Hassan or Trump? And I think it's an interesting thought experiment to go through. There were some disagreements, so I thought I'd gather people together to hash those out and have a discussion on it. Just a note before we begin, I know there's some tensions are high in different communities and things like that, so I might be a little more heavy-handed on moderation than I normally would be, because I do want the topic itself to be discussed at least a little. But other than that, I'm just going to give the mic to you guys and let you guys go at it. We're going to hand the mic first to Econoboi, give his thoughts, and then we'll just kind of go around. Econoboi, start us off.
Yeah. So, for those listening, the topic is courting the far left. I take that to be essentially a political and strategic discussion about whether or not and how exactly we should or should not court the far left. And the way that I think of the far left, there's a lot of polls on this. Based on all the research that I was able to do, about 10% of people that vote for Democrats call themselves socialist, and about another 10% call themselves extremely liberal. So if we were to think Kamala got about 49% of the vote, that's to say that something like 10% of those people are either extremely liberal or socialist by their self-identification. And so I think that what that means to me is that we should take what those people say, those actually existing far left voters, seriously, that to the extent that they have demands, they should have a seat at the table. We should try to come up with some sort of coalition and platform that can balance the needs and desires of the far left and the very, very centrist in the party, recognizing that we're in a big tent. And then when it comes to anti-electoral leftists and anti-democratic leftists, which I'm sure we'll talk about on the show, I think that to the extent that those people have big platforms, Democrats should engage with those platforms. So if Pete Buttigieg wants to go on Hassan's stream and espouse the greatness of his campaign or the Democratic Party or something, I don't really have a big problem with that. But I don't think that people like that should be part of the inner party or should be invited to the DNC. Somebody like Mamdani, if he becomes the mayor of New York, probably should get a speaking spot at the DNC, but probably not people like Hassan, because it's not clear to me that Hassan is quote unquote an ally of the Democratic Party. And what I'll say is one last thing. I'll say that, I think Destiny had said at some point, he had clarified that essentially people who use the label of socialist should be treated like Nazis. I take that to mean that they should be very harshly socially excluded from the broader movement of the Democratic Party or the broader left. But I think that would be extremely counterproductive because, again, these are just a big chunk of the people of the Democratic Party. I think I get accused of wanting to shrink the tent because I want to primary pro-filibuster senators, right? on ideological grounds. But I think to say that we should shun basically everyone that calls themselves a socialist in the Democratic Party, that's to say that we should shun essentially 10% of the base, which is, I don't know, I just think that's much more counterproductive than just trying to build a coalition with them.
Okay, thank you, and we will get into it as we go. I'm going to hand the mic next to Pisco. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it obviously depends on what you mean by court and what you mean by the far left. So obviously, like, I would be in support if by far left you mean people like Mamdani, people like AOC, these kinds of people who identify, Bernie Sanders as a socialist. I think that there are absolutely things that we can agree on with socialists, and we're a big tent enough coalition if what you mean by far left includes those people. But ultimately, this is a conversation I think about semantics. What is the far left? Who are the group of people who are like anti-liberal or anti-constitutional that you want to exclude? And to what extent do you want to exclude them? Does exclude mean invite them, don't invite them to create a party platform? Does exclude mean not interact with them in any respect? Even as Econoboi mentioned, to like use their platform either for a debate or to like promote the candidacy or to try to convince people. I don't know if I'll go that far. I certainly wouldn't want to incorporate any Marxist-Leninist ideas into the Democratic platform if that's what's being meant by courting the voters or courting the far left. So ultimately, it's a semantic argument, but we're not here for that. We're here because, in my opinion, there's been a bad faith campaign to basically smear me and Econoboi and Josiah as having moved to the far left, as having put space in our coalition to really allow for anti-democratic, anti-constitutional ideas and to not push back on them. And I think what you'll find that there are tensions right now, I think, in the different coalitions and the different viewer bases, but they don't have to do with a big substantive disagreement. I encourage everyone who's watching, actually look during the course of this conversation, how much disagreement substantively is there going to be? If we're talking about like this semantic game about what a socialist is a socialist a Nazi? Stephen is going to just fucking get crushed on that argument by Econoboi in terms of what a normal person means by the term socialist and how those terms are used. If he can produce any evidence whatsoever that me, Econoboi, or anyone on Live and Learn did something wrong in like bringing on the vanguard, notice if he can bring up anything that shows that we are taking a kind of illiberal approach or trying to do some kind of bad faith, like a courting of the tanky vote. If he can point to any specifics, or are really just going to have more fucking nitpicking on the sides while he encourages and frankly, I think smears us as tankies, anti-liberal, and anti-constitutional. So I'm here definitely to get clarity on terms and to notice actually what is the room of substantive disagreement here, or is all of this a fugazi to cover up spite and personal conflict between him and other streamers? And is there really evidence that we're moving to the tanky left or the illiberal left?
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and I'm sure we'll get into all of that. Let's give it first to counterpoints. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my issue with this whole thing is that there are socialists, which I define, I think, in a good faith way for the decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production. There are also communists who believe that the end result of our material analysis should be a moneyless, stateless, classless society. I think these people exist. I think they have clout. I think they have influence. And I would use specific examples in our sphere of influence, like Erin or Straighterade, who says that she's a communist. I would use the examples like Hassan Piker, who I just watched earlier today, is effectively holding hands with Marxist-Leninists and saying that he is a Marxist-Leninist. He's just, playing softy with the Social Democrats and the Democratic Socialists. That way he can get clout and influence and then radicalize them down a funnel. So for me, what I'm trying to point out is that if you pretend that this person is normal and nice and fine and a part of the coalition, then you're going to lose the moderates, you're going to lose the center right, and for every leftist you gain, you probably lose 2 or 3 moderates. So, the Vanguard, I have no idea what their politics are. I would frankly love to speak to them specifically about their politics. But if MLs are a part of the coalition, you're losing people. You're being politically ineffective. That's my argument.
Okay, thank you for being here. And last but certainly not least, Destiny, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that when I was making the rounds debating Nazis in 2016 to 2018, one of the most common things that I heard from kind of like the centrists that basically gave more credence to all of the far right ideas was point to where I support this. Show me where I said that I'm racist. Show me where I said that I hate Jewish people, or I'm anti-Semitic, or I'm, trying to be a white supremacist. And there was always this like annoying fight that I would have to do where in order to start debating the Nazis, I'd have to chew through all of these epic centrists first who would say, well, I'm just a classical liberal. I'm Sargon of Akkad. I'm not actually a white supremacist. I just happen to give cover for all of these people. I don't think Econoboi or Pisco or Josiah or any of these other people, I don't think they're becoming tankies or anything like that. I just think there's a very annoying cover that's given to a lot of these people where there's like, we can 100% discern and decipher every single intention that Donald Trump has. We have no problem calling him a fascist outright. But then when you have people that hate the Democrats, that shit on our candidates, that attack everybody on our side constantly, we're like, well, I don't know what they really think or how they really feel. Or when it comes to people like Hassan, like even earlier today in my subreddit, Econoboi, when asked about supporting Hassan, will say things like, well, I don't think I necessarily agree with him on everything. He says, I don't have a generally positive view of Hassan, and I think I would flatly agree with many of the criticisms levied at Hassan. That's just in my mind, even though it seems like there's some kind of separation there. That's just a wild statement to make from somebody who openly supports terrorist groups that kill civilians, or openly supports enemies of the United States, or openly supports the subversive propagandizing of our entire political party to hijack the entire movement to destroy if not the Democratic Party, maybe even all of the entire United States of America. So I'm sure we'll get into it. I don't think it behooves us to just say all of this is a semantic disagreement. I think it's actually really important to define what a leftist is, because I think that it's important for the people to know where everybody stands, and it's important to get rid of people that are intentionally trying to obscure their beliefs and come in under the guise of being a leftist without actually stating, what their position is, and then having this like this dual role that they get to play where they can propagandize people and radicalize them without actually ever stating what it is they're trying to do. Are you for the complete total abolition of our democracy, or are you just somebody who wants the government to do more stuff?
And just to get clarity, so we know what we're talking about, Destiny, are you saying that Econoboi and Pisco are running cover for those leftists that you think are infecting the Democratic Party, or however you want to put it, right?
Yes, but I don't think it's like they're secretly tanky and so they want to provide cover for their tanky friends. I think it's more just like this. There's something that happens in the Democrat brain, and I've been guilty of it too, where you're so obsessively trying to seem like even-handed that you get rooted out in this world where you're like, I'm trying to be fair and I don't want to have like Hassan derangement syndrome, so I'm just going to say, they're not that bad. I don't know that much about any of this. I'm not sure, whatever. But what it causes is this reality where the conversation for this podcast, what was talked about earlier, was should we appeal to leftists when it comes to gaining political power? When do leftists talk about appealing to liberals to try to gain political power? Or when do leftists say, hey, maybe we should chill on shitting on the party, forever and ever when it comes to getting political power? Like, why is the conversation only ever on the Democratic side of things? That's just very wild to me.
Okay. The floor is open. Go ahead.
I was going to say they do. They say I
have a question.
I
have a question. Yeah. So this is both to Connor and to Stephen. Should some socialists, at least some, be catered to, be appealed to, and be part of the coalition?
No.
So you would agree, therefore, that Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Mamdani should not be catered to and part of the coalition, correct?
Depends on what you mean when you say catered to.
Should they, for example, the head of the ticket being a socialist like AOC, Mamdani, if they are the nominees, should we support them?
Yes, but that doesn't mean you're catering to socialism.
Okay, but you understand.
Hold on. You recognize that supporting somebody at the top of a ticket. Well, if you want to play the yes or no question, I can play the same game. Yeah. You understand that supporting somebody being at the top of the ticket doesn't mean that you are centrally supporting their ideology. For instance, it's possible to cater to, in a roundabout way, people that are further to the left of you without catering to far leftist beliefs, right?
Correct. But you would agree, like, if the socialist is at the top of the ticket, socialists like Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Party should support the socialists at the top of the ticket, correct?
It depends what you mean by support, but generally, yeah, I think you should support.
Okay, so you're okay with socialists being part of the coalition, correct?
I don't really know if I consider Bernie Sanders or AOC to be like socialists.
And why is that exactly?
Because I don't think that they like fit under conventional definitions of socialism.
Do they want the decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production?
Yeah, so that's your definition. That's your proprietary definition of socialism.
That's
but you agree.
Most socialists' definition. Econoboi, do you disagree with my definition?
Yeah. Okay. So just to hop in here. So yeah, I disagree that is. Okay, do you want me to answer the question, Connor?
Answer the, give Econoboi space
Okay.
to answer. Go ahead, Econoboi.
So
I want you to do a line of
okay.
Adderall.
Let Econoboi answer. Go ahead.
I probably should have done an edible instead of Adderall before entering this debate. But to answer your question, similar to capitalism, socialism is a diverse universe of people. There's a lot of people who call themselves socialists. Some of them are Marxist-Leninists. Some of them are like what you might call like moderate, like right-wing socialists, I guess, like me, who say that we should just collectivize the ownership of production. People have different ways of defining these things. For instance, capitalism includes people all the way from Fabian Liberty to people like Destiny, who basically endorses the Nordic model, right? And they're both capitalists, right? And so I think that of the 10% of people who call themselves socialists and are part of the Democratic Party base, obviously that's a very diverse group of people, ranging from the exact, essentially, people that I just mentioned as well. And I think that's a very sensible way to look at who calls themselves socialist and why. To Destiny's point of
Donnie's not a socialist or that Bernie's not a socialist. That's crazy.
Just one more sentence that to Destiny's point about when do like the left wingers ever cater to the moderates? Well, I mean, I seem to remember people like Bernie Sanders and AOC taking very collaborative positions with people like Biden when he was in office. And I seem to recall like Mamdani, he took a very collaborative position with people like Brad Lander. And Mamdani's campaign, to the extent that it appealed to people broader than just the left wing, he made that conscious decision to do that. He didn't run on a campaign of seizing the means of production. He ran on a campaign of like freezing the rent and providing childcare to people, right? I mean, I take that to be in some sense a means to cater to a broader base of people than just left wingers, essentially.
So I think that if we want to talk about catering to socialists, I think that the issue that we have is there exists a world where you only have, or you have a bunch of like Bernie Sanders, AOC, maybe Mamdani types of people that are part of your movement and part of your coalition. And I think that if we lived in a world where there was a rich media environment with a lot of people who were socialists, who, you know, some supported the liberals, some kind of didn't, and some were like really against it, then we could have that conversation. But right now, it seems basically ubiquitous across the entirety of the left-wing media landscape to aggressively and violently shit on and attack Democratic candidates as harshly as possible. I just saw, and I'm sure you guys saw, that Vanguard tweet saying that Pete Buttigieg looked like and smelled like a rat. Pete is one of the most like popular Democratic figures making the rounds on shows. I just watched Crystal Ball fucking roast the fuck out of a senator from Michigan because she wouldn't give like the singular one answer on the Gazan issue. If this is the world we're going to live in, where you want to say, oh, well, socialism encompasses a broad range of people. But when I look to the media environment, almost every single person that would even flirt with the label socialist relentlessly shits on the Democratic Party. I don't know if I can really say, yeah, sure, we should also appeal to these people. It's just not the right media environment.
But there's a definitional issue here, which is you're saying that Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mamdani are not socialist. Explain that.
That's not really responsive to anything I just said.
No, because you were not responsive to the issue at hand, which has to do with the definition. Yeah. So the question is, if you're defining socialism to only include the people that Steven doesn't like, then maybe there's not actually a disagreement here in terms of who like should be leading the party or something.
So I wasn't defining socialism as people I don't like. I was defining socialism. So we can talk about definition of socialism. What I'm looking at right now is the socialist media environment. My earlier argument was that I don't know if I would even consider like Bernie Sanders and AOC to be hardcore socialists. If I wanted to supply,
I didn't say hardcore socialist at all.
Sure, socialists at all. Well, right now, who are the socialists all shitting on almost more than anybody else? AOC and Bernie Sanders. So, I mean,
whether they're shitting on them or not, Stephen, whether they're shitting them or not isn't the question. That's a separate question. Are they shitting or not shitting? The question is, should socialists be part of the coalition? You just said that Bernie isn't a socialist. He identifies as such. AOC is not a socialist. She identifies as such. Mamdani isn't a socialist. She identifies as such. What's your evidence they're not socialists?
So identifying as a political thing doesn't make you that political thing. That's a tautology, and that would be nonsense, number one. And number two, the question wasn't should they be part of the coalition. The question is, should we appeal to them? Those are two fundamentally completely different questions.
Destiny, to be clear, though, you're narrowing your position. It was just last night when you said explicitly, anyone that uses the socialist label should be treated like a Nazi, right? Now,
in the media environment is what we're talking about, though. I'm commenting on your show.
Then, Destiny. Okay, well, that's what you said last night. If you're clarifying just people within the media environment, then I'm just saying that that's a useful narrowing of the discussion then, because
you can call it a narrowing if you want, but anybody that's watched any, like,
No,
I don't
but
shit on AOC, I don't shit on Bernie Sanders even, and I've been supportive of Mamdani for
I
the.
think useful is one way to
election.
put about it. I think useful is one way to put it. I think Weasley is another way to put it, and I think it is Weasley. I think you're backing off of the strong position. The strong position is socialists shouldn't be a part of socialists shouldn't be a part of our fucking coalition. And now when you're getting pushed, I guess now it's the media environment. And now it's but you took a strong.
I didn't say socialists shouldn't be part of the coalition. I said we shouldn't be trying to actively appeal to socialists. Do you understand that those are two separate things?
They're different statements. They're correct. They're different statements. But you said
no. They mean fundamentally two completely different
things. They're two
things,
different
right?
statements that mean different things. They're two different statements that mean two different things. But your position, is it your position, therefore, that the Democrats should, as part of their coalition in terms of who to vote for, what kind of policy support, to humor people like Mamdani, humor people like AOC, and humor people like Bernie Sanders? And if that's the truth, then I think that
I don't know what that statement means. Should they humor them? Like, what does that mean? Like, put them on the ballot? I don't know what that question means.
So, should they have a seat at the table? Whatever you take the seat at the table. Whatever
like,
you're, that's what I'm asking you. So for example, you're the one who says that we need to excise these people from the party. I actually don't know what you mean by that. So whatever your vision of having a seat at the table, not being excised is, whatever you're using when you say these people need to be gone, under that definition, do you think? Okay.
Sure. Let's let Destiny. Those are good questions, Pisco, and I'd like to know the answers too. Right? What do you mean, Destiny, when you say we need to excise these people? How do you see that?
My fixation is almost universally on the media environment when I'm having these conversations. I think when I was watching you guys talk, it was also generally on although sometimes you guys would try to go back to AOC, but like politicians operate kind of in a different world than the media environment operates in. Most of my criticism on the media environment that all calls themselves like leftists or socialists, seem to relentlessly shit on Democrats. And I just think it's a really unhealthy and bad world, again, where you see a Michigan senator wants to dip her toes into the podcasting world. And one of the jokes I made about Kamala is one of the reasons why she probably didn't do any shows is because she would get fucked by the right, the centrist, and the left. And she goes on a leftist show and she gets fucking shit on because they only want to talk about fucking Palestine. This is a senator from a blue state, from Michigan. Jesus, that's insane to me. And it would be nice if we actually had like a strong center left position and a strong center left media apparatus, and not just a bunch of leftists who fucking hate the party.
Do you understand our position to be that we disagree with your assessment that leftists constantly shit on the Democrats? Do you think that we disagree on that?
I'm not sure all the time. I can't tell.
So you're not sure. So we're here to discuss something where you're not sure if we agree with you on the position that the lefties constantly shit on Democrats in ways we don't like. We agree that lefties constantly shit on Democrats in ways that we don't like. We agree with Hutch, for example, when they constantly shit on people like Biden in certain ways, even though I shit on Biden in some respects. We agreed on the AOC tweets that they shouldn't have shit on her that way. And so there's no disagreement there. So that obviously isn't what we're here to discuss on a point where you're unsure that we disagree on.
I wasn't saying that we had I was asserting strongly that we massively disagreed there. So, what was counterpoint?
Okay, I got something I massively disagree with. So, okay. I think that every single leftist that I've talked to online, anybody who has any kind of political knowledge whatsoever, defines socialists as decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production, and they use that definition repeatedly. I think that my frustration is that there are a bunch of quote unquote social democrats who talk about universal health care, or they talk about, making rent cheaper or some shit like that, which are social democratic Scandinavian policies. And I think they're using the term socialism backdoor in order to rehabilitate the image of this. And not just that, Hassan Piker and plenty of far lefties, plenty of MLs, probably the Vanguard as well, they're ecstatic that this is happening. They're ecstatic that Mamdani has social democrat policies. They're ecstatic that AOC have social democrat policies. They're ecstatic that Bernie Sanders have social democrat policies because it rehabilitates the word in my mind. That shift of the Overton window to the fucking far left,
or maybe they agree with the policy.
An insidious plot by twats to manipulate the Democratic Party.
I'll ask you, Connor, maybe,
and it's going to ruin electoralism.
So we're going to get some actual clarity here. So to be clear, Stephen, you don't disagree that people like Mamdani, AOC, and Bernie, they're fine to be in the party, and we're fine to appeal to the kind of issues that they care about in their positions, correct? You don't have a problem with that?
Hold on, real quick.
I'm asking Stephen a question. I'm going to get to you and see if you disagree with Stephen, actually.
Second, I want to say something before you and Destiny talk for the next 40 fucking minutes. What I would say is that if the socialists are proposing social democrat policy, but then they get what they want, and then they try to yank the political window further left. That is something 100% that I oppose. Destiny, you and Pisco, go ahead and fight for the next 10 minutes.
Wait, no, I know. I just want to ask, and I'll ask. I'm going to go to you, Connor, and see if you agree with Destiny, because I think we might all have a more disagreement with you, Connor, than we have within each other in terms of the substantive opinion. So I'm going to ask Stephen, do you have a problem with these people, the people identified, Mamdani, Sanders, AOC, being part of the Democratic coalition, and however you define Democratic coalition, and having their positions catered to, or people having their positions in general as part of the Democratic coalition? Do you have a problem with that?
Okay, so there's two separate questions. So one, like generally, I'm probably almost always going to support a blue candidate over a red candidate in this current media environment, or in this current political environment, number one. But number two, when you say, do you have a problem appealing to them? I mean, that means different things. If you say, like, would I have a problem if we were to appeal to Bernie Sanders coming out and saying, I want to socialize all of the means of productions in the United States, I would have a problem with that. But if you're saying, do you have a problem appealing to Bernie and AOC and Mamdani saying, we need to find ways to make, rent cheaper in cities, and that might mean a policy like rent control that I personally don't like, but, if they want to try it, I mean, I wouldn't be like fundamentally opposed to having that as part of my party's platform. Then no, I mean, like it would depend on what things we're talking about appealing to.
Like, agreed. You're okay with the socialist being at the top of the Democratic ticket in the sense of socialist in
but
the Bernie
again,
Sanders sense.
But this is part of the issue. You call
it Is that right or no? Am I wrong?
This is not like a simple thing. You're like doing like the what is a woman at me? What is a socialist?
No, I'm asking you. Do you have a problem with Bernie Sanders being at the top of the ticket?
You got to let Destiny.
That's a specific question.
Top of the ticket? No. Like if him being a senator from Vermont, no. If he was president, probably not.
Yeah.
So when you say a socialist, if you're talking about somebody who wants to abolish by law all of private enterprise and maybe even attack the democratic underpinnings of our political parties, right, and have a single party rule, I would be opposed to that.
But that doesn't describe Bernie. It doesn't describe Mamdani. It doesn't describe AOC. Correct?
No, but Mamdani, Bernie, and AOC are on the outer perimeter of what is considered socialist, and they're attacked by the center part of what is socialist. That's my issue. You could probably find an outer perimeter fascist that I might be okay with. If he's some fascist who's like, yeah, I think we should protect America as an ethno-state, and I'm defining ethno-state as like the current ethnic composition of America, and I think that we should have like stronger rules on immigration. I was like, yeah, I probably fucking support this dude or whatever.
The problem is that, like, and you understand, and Econoboi would lay this out, that Bernie, AOC, these types, they come from a long tradition of democratic socialists from like UK, Australia. He brought up Clement Attlee, and this is not some fringe movement. These are democratic socialists that exist in countries all over the world. So we're not talking about this idiosyncratic belief of socialism. It's a version of socialism that exists, and you're okay with it being part of the party. So the question isn't one of categorical. You're okay with some socialists. You would vote for some socialists. I'll ask Connor the same question. Connor, are you okay with someone like Bernie Sanders being on the top of the ticket, AOC being on the top of the ticket of the Democratic Party?
No, I would either abstain from voting or I would fucking vote against them. Like, for instance, if there's a moderate Republican compared to AOC or Bernie, not that moderate Republicans exist anymore, but if they existed, I would pick a moderate Republican over AOC or Bernie.
I think the bigger disagreement's between you and Destiny. Therefore, I think Destiny's okay with some socialists
to be clear,
being a part of the Democratic coalition.
Connor is a Republican, so I would expect him to say that. Yeah, no shit. But voting for somebody is a lot different than appealing to somebody. These are two different things, and we keep playing like this clever game of trying to.
Where do you think? To describe us,
let Destiny finish his thought. Please.
Well, that's it. No, I'm just saying that like appealing to somebody is a lot different than voting for somebody. I'm guessing if I was in New York and there was a plethora of candidates, Mamdani probably wouldn't be my first choice, but I'd probably vote for him in the primary, or I'm sorry, in the general. But that doesn't mean I would like want to appeal to a socialist or whatever.
But I agree that
like we have to. I think there's a useful thing to look at what this actually looks like in actually existing politics, right? So in 2016, when Bernie Sanders got 45% of the vote in the primary, something like that. He was involved in the platform committee for the DNC. He was like a main speaker at the DNC in 2016. He was able to extract a lot of concessions to the party. Like, I think that because of him, the party added in marijuana legalization, a $15 hour minimum wage. I think carbon pricing. And I think maybe there was some stuff about the death penalty. I want to say that was something that Bernie Sanders really pushed to add into the Democratic Party platform. And again, that's like a very direct appeal to Bernie Sanders and like an appeal to the unity between the centrists and the socialists and the Democratic Socialists.
No, nothing. What policy there was socialist?
Okay, so
because here's where we're going to run into the problem, because nothing that you just said there was socialist, and there's this game that's played where
you're wrong about that. You're completely wrong. Okay,
15 an hour is socialist.
Okay, do you think a progressive income tax is socialist?
Not necessarily, no.
Right. So the Communist Manifesto proposed a progressive income tax, right? So
does that make it a socialist policy?
I would say, generally speaking, that the Communist Manifesto, the manifesto of the Communist Party, like it probably is something of an authority on what it means to be a communist policy.
The Communist Manifesto is a pamphlet made so that farmers could read it and join a violent revolution against the state. Is that really where we're going by the defining document of what all, like what? There are going to be aspects of communism and socialism that are shared by democracy.
Oh my God, this is so bad faith. So Econoboi brings up a point. He says, is this policy socialist? And as it's sort of embodied in the Communist Manifesto, and you go a broader point and say, well, the Communist Manifesto has this other purpose. That's not the question on the table, whether it has other purposes.
So no, that's not the point. So the point is that it's not about whether or not we would semantically define something like a progressive income tax as communist or not communist. It's about these broader movements and what their general ideological disposition is on all of the different set of possible positions within the policy debate. So I would agree to your point that in terms of socialism being the decommodification of labor and also like the collective ownership of the means of production, if that's the way that you define socialism, then obviously these aren't like socialist policies, quote unquote, but that doesn't mean that you're not appealing to like the broader socialist movement and the broader like socialist apparatus of advocacy when you propose things like a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Clarity. Econoboi, just for clarity, so I understand, you're saying when you say I want to appeal to socialists, you're saying things like, oh, pick policies that socialists would also like.
I'm saying that insofar as socialists and very progressive Democrats are a part of the actually existing base of Democratic voters, they should have some proportional say in things like party leadership positions, committee assignments, the platform of the Democratic Party, fundraising distribution, activist-based organizing, strategic discussions. They should have some kind of proportional say in all of those discussions.
But the problem is those people, if they truly identify as socialists and not just like liberal light or socialist light or whatever we're calling these people, they're not going to be pushing for these outer perimeter things that socialists might agree with when it comes to liberals. So when you say like a $15 an hour minimum wage or like a progressive taxation system, these are quote unquote socialist policies because they're mentioned in the Communist Manifesto. You don't need communism or socialism to talk about either of those issues. And what I don't like is this weird game that's played where somehow socialists are allowed to no true Scotsman every single good thing that our capitalist liberal society has produced and say, oh, well, you like vacation days? That actually came from socialism. You like a minimum wage? That came from socialism. You like labor unions? That came from socialism. And every bad and shitty thing is ascribed to the capitalist part, despite the fact that that's what's even creating the necessary prerequisite wealth to even have these other things.
What does that have to do with? Wait, I don't know what that has to do like at all with what I just said. What I'm saying fundamentally is that I think it's sensible to make policy concessions to the broader socialist apparatus insofar as they're a part of the base. It sounds like you don't even.
We don't have to make that's not a policy concession to a socialist. It's literally not. Hold on. Wait. No, absolutely not.
Absolutely would.
If you got rid of all the socialists, could you still get a $15 an hour minimum wage? Then it's not a policy concession to socialism.
Wait. No. Econoboi's
really quick, please go. Destiny, even under a quote unquote liberal economic frameworks, people in my replies are calling countries like the Nordic societies liberal capitalist societies, even though they do quote unquote socialist things as you would just define, like social ownership of the means of production. Like there's a lot of quote unquote socialist policies that those countries have engaged in that people are labeling as liberalism and doing these kind of things. And it's like, whatever, if we want to have narrow definitions of things, that's totally fine with me. But I think that insofar as like the socialist movement, and when we went to the topic of the debate, courting the left, right? Conceding things to the left, the broader left. I include very progressive Democrats in that who might identify as capitalists or might be misaligned in some way. That includes things like broader progressive policies, like, I mentioned the death penalty minimum wage, things like that as well.
When I say court the left, and when I was designing this topic, maybe I could have been more clear. I'm not talking about issues that both liberals and leftists share. Like both of them agree that we should treat kids nicely. Both of them agree that we should be kind to our neighbors, things like that.
Nice.
I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about things that are specifically and uniquely.
So name them.
left.
So if you're
The decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production.
Holy fucking shit.
Hassan is a good example, right?
Hassan isn't a policy. Hassan isn't a policy. If you're talking about appealing to people, Econoboi gave you a response. He's talking about things that these people care about, socialists care about. If all you're talking about is people.
No. Okay, so I'm going to say something that pisses me off about this conversation. Oh, somebody else started talking. I'm going to roll my eyes. Shut the fuck up, Pisco. Take your eyeballs and fucking shut them the fuck up, okay? So saying everything good is socialism is dumb as fuck. Okay.
No one said
Say-
that.
What I'm
Yeah,
doing,
yeah,
Tom.
yeah,
What
we
are
did.
you
We
talking
just
No one
did.
about?
I just listened
fucking
to it.
said
Hey,
that,
shut the
dipshit.
fuck up.
No
I
one
listened to you
fucking said
twats
that,
for the past
dipshit.
5 minutes. Shut the
Yeah,
fuck
but
up.
we didn't
Shut the
straw
fuck
man the
up.
shit out of you,
Shut the
Connor.
fuck
You're
up.
being an idiot.
You're
All
a
right,
fucking
shut the fuck
idiot,
up.
dude. He didn't say that.
Hey,
No one
my
said
turn.
that.
I have the talking stick. Shut the fuck up. Okay. So saying like, oh, a minimum wage is socialist. Progressive taxes is socialist. Firefighters is socialist. Police are socialist. Teachers are socialist. This is the kind of fucking bullshit that is the obfuscation that I'm talking about, where you're basically talking about normie lib governmental policies that are perfectly conducive to a free market fucking state. And you're like, oh, all of it's just a gradation of the economics. Well, why don't we just go with the right-wing definition of socialism, where socialism is when the government does anything ever whatsoever.
so,
Then at that
Connor,
point, I'm a
yeah,
socialist.
You're not listening.
Fucking
You're not listening.
JD
Connor,
Vance is a socialist. Everybody's a fucking socialist.
Hold on. Give it to Pisco and Econoboi to respond.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
Econoboi specifically didn't say that. I'll let Econoboi do, but you're just not listening. But I want to talk after Econoboi.
So just to be clear, again, I'm grounding everything that I'm saying in the actually existing people that call themselves socialists and call themselves very.
If there's a good
progressive.
policy,
Now,
we should
if I
do it
could just
regardless
finish,
of whether or
Connor,
not
You're not
individuals are
listening.
socialists.
about
I'm listening.
interrupting.
No,
So-
I heard it.
Okay. Well, you interrupted. So just give me a second here. I'm grounding this
Do a
in
line
the
of Adderall.
actually existing people that call it socialism, that call it whatever, very progressive capitalism or very progressive like policies in general, right? So insofar as you're saying, oh, my narrow definition of socialist policies is decommodification of labor and the socialization of the means of production, then to be fair, according to me and according to some other policies that have been proposed, that is like almost exactly what we would be
Can you
doing.
give us an example? Just an
Hold on.
example.
Oh,
of
wait,
a
actually,
policy-
wait, real quick.
My
No, wait, can I ask a
God.
question? Just real
Example
quick
of
for,
a
Fuck this.
policy
I didn't
No,
come here to play the No True Scotsman for fucking
wait,
40 minutes.
not the policy game.
That's
I'm just
not
curious
what
because
I'm doing. I'm doing the
wait.
exact opposite.
Okay, wait. Econoboi keeps bringing up like AOC and Bernie Sanders. Can you name somebody in the media environment that identifies as a socialist that is friendly towards the Democratic Party?
Like,
I don't know,
like in the
what is that
mainstream media
relevant?
environment, or-
Anybody in the media
Why is that
environment, the
relevant
alternative-
to the conversation?
Because
You want to change the
Maybe
politicians-
another
conversation?
point. This
I
isn't
don't
a
want to change the
courtroom, you son of a
conversation because
bitch.
politicians have to operate within the very real world of trying to get elected. So necessarily their positions are going to be probably a bit more constrained. And also these are people that, I mean, maybe Connor has, but I don't shit on AOC or Bernie Sanders. That was never what this conversation was ever about, like ever. Like I'm curious, in the media environment, are there any people that identify as socialists that are friendly towards the Democratic Party in the United States of America?
Wait, why is that relevant to whether or not the Democrats
Because my
should?
main criticism, I'm telling you, because my main criticism is that you're saying Democrats should appeal to socialists, and you're picking the outer perimeter socialists that are the least socialist people who have won elections by being the least socialist people, saying that the outer perimeter beliefs that we're appealing to are things like a 15-hour minimum wage, which aren't even necessarily socialist policies. When the issue we have is that the central tenets of socialism, like the abolition of all free enterprise, the abolition of all private property, the destruction of the political parties in the United States of America, those are the people that are dominating the media environment. And you're asking us to appeal to those people to capture people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. I'm not worried about the AOCs and Bernie Sanders. I'm worried about the people that work for Bernie Sanders, like your Brianna Joy Grays, or the people that are running the entire left-wing media online apparatus, which is why I'm asking for a single person who identifies as a socialist that supports the Democratic Party.
So
I don't know.
If you're asking for a single person who identifies as a socialist that supports the Democratic Party, there's obviously a lot of those people. I just said those are 10% of the people that vote for Democrats.
Okay,
Media
and I want to
people.
make this point because it's
Okay,
relevant
so-
to the conversation
Holy
we're having.
shit.
Fuck you,
what's your relevant
Pisco.
point,
If
Tom?
every
Oh,
time
dude,
you open your fucking
you guys-
mouth, I
you
go,
guys-
oh,
you guys are,
shit.
you guys are. It's impossible for you guys to linearize because your whole job here is to muddy the waters. When the conference
Oh,
presented-
I think you're muddying the water. That's exactly what I'm going to accuse you of momentarily. So shut up and
So
listen.
you were brought in.
Hold on,
You
hold
and
on,
Wick are
hold
being
on,
brought
let
in
Pisco go.
to give
I-
cover to
Pisco,
Destiny.
Counter.
I'm gonna
Pisco first, then
offer.
counter.
I'm
Hold
gonna
on, counter,
offer
stop,
clarity.
Stop, counter, stop. Pisco first, and then you can respond.
So
Go ahead.
clearly, with respect to policies that socialists support, if what we mean by appeal to socialists is to literally propose policies that these types of socialists would support, you guys are okay with them, certain of these policies, right? And we're just now defining what the scope of that agreement is, what the scope of that overlap is. But you don't have a problem in principle with appealing to socialists if by appealing to socialists, we mean promoting policies that they like, correct?
Yeah, but that's a meaningless
The
statement.
policies are good.
Okay, so now let's actually.
Wait, because the question would be, are you okay with appealing to members of the Ku Klux Klan?
They like
Yeah,
clean
so-
drinking
yeah,
water. Are
so-
you
No, wait,
sympathetic
wait, yeah,
Nazis,
like,
you
yeah,
piece
yeah,
of shit?
my follow-up.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
let's say
if-
that you do
yeah.
like city renovations.
So
where you
now
have clean
let's.
drinking water.
So now let's actually talk about the policies and whether they get to
No,
the
you have to
core.
answer that question. Would you be
Yeah,
okay
I'm
with having a
okay with
party that
I'm
goes
okay
into
with
Whicking?
I'm okay with the party. I'm totally willing to buy bullets. You know, I buy bullets. I'm totally willing with a party to appeal to members of the Ku Klux Klan if what is meant by that is appealing to common sense policies that
Okay,
everyone
which
can.
is what- yes, so
Excuse me.
that's a
Excuse me. Let me
pointless
finish.
question.
Wait. It's not a pointless question. It's not a pointless question because there are policies that you would consider socialist. I think under your definition, no true Scotsman definition of socialist, that maybe the Democrats should appeal. So, for example, would you be against? Do you think, first of all, that a national healthcare service is a socialist policy?
No.
Okay, can you give an example of a socialist policy?
Things that involve taking away the means of production from private owners, from capital owners, and giving that so that the workers are exclusively the ones that are in control of the means of production.
So a single payer healthcare system, let's say a health insurance system, let's put it aside national healthcare, a single payer healthcare system that makes it illegal or outlaws private insurance, you would not say that's socialist?
If you're talking about the government owning everything from the top down, then including the hospitals, then theoretically you could call that socialist. Some people
would you or would you? Sorry. Would you call that socialist? Would you, Stephen? Not Mike. Would you call that socialist? Yes or no?
I would call it a state-owned enterprise or state-owned enterprise. A socialist? I mean, like technically not really, but sure, we can say.
Wait. Is your answer that a single payer system is not socialist? Is that what your answer is?
I wouldn't call it socialist, but if you wanted to, for the purpose of this conversation, sure.
No, I don't know. I want to know your opinion. So I'm asking your opinion. Your answer is no. Single payer is not socialist. Okay, and
I don't think it's necessarily like a social policy. You could call it if you wanted to. You could, but
no, I'm not asking if I wanted to. I could. I'm asking your opinion. I'm not saying if you wanted to, you could.
You want me to give you a yes or no answer to an incredibly question.
I want your opinion, dipshit. Hey, dipshit. I want your opinion. I want your opinion.
You don't want an opinion. You want a yes or no?
I want your opinion. I want your opinion.
You don't even know what the difference between state-owned enterprise
Do you think single payer? Stephen, do you think single payer? Stephen, I'm not asking would someone else, could you? I'm asking you, Stephen Bonnell, do you consider single payer to be socialist?
I wouldn't call that socialist.
No. Okay, so this is who's the no true Scotsman here? You guys were saying like the policy that most people who would absolutely consider to be socialist is not socialist. And so our working framework of socialism is only tankyism, only people who want to decommodify everything and have government ownership of everything. And it's preposterous. You're just not operating with the way people use those words.
That's great. That's literally not the argument, though. But if you wanted to argue that if we were to call it socialist and you wanted to socialize the healthcare system, the reason why you would be doing that wouldn't be because you're trying to appeal to socialism.
Weasel words, Stephen. Weasel words.
It's called politics. I know that's
if you want to.
Can I finish my answer? Holy shit. There's a difference between doing something by, so for instance, I'm a free market capitalist, but that doesn't mean I oppose government intrusion into every single sector or even a government monopoly on things like, say, utilities, because there are some things that the free market doesn't solve for. To say that I don't think the free market solves for this, so we should have utility companies ran by the state is not the same as saying I'm appealing to fucking socialists.
I'm not saying it's the same. I'm not saying.
So when you ask me if a single payer system would be socialist, I might say, I guess you can consider it social if you want. The reason why I'm advocating though for a single payer system isn't because I'm trying to appeal to socialists. It's because I think free market capitalism cannot solve our problems.
So this is the obfuscation.
Yes or no? Yes or no? What is a woman? What is a woman? If we're doing that with socialism, we can do that. Okay, go for it.
So the obfuscation is the question isn't.
There's no obfuscation to be clear. You're just confused. Your confusion is not me obfuscating.
The obfuscation is as follows, and I'll identify it. The question isn't whether or not the intention behind promoting single payer system is one way or another. We're not talking about the intention behind why you propose one policy or another. We're just asking in pure semantic terms, would most people call socialized medicine, socialized healthcare, would they call it a socialist policy? And your absurd deflection on that and say, no, I would not call it socialist. I think just you're not using the term.
Can I answer the question very straightforward?
Yes. Here's the question. Wait. Do you think that Hassan would call it socialism?
I don't. Wait, why is that relevant?
Why is the largest left-wing streamer relevant to what mainstream thought is amongst leftists on the online media sphere? Did you just say it?
The Communist Manifesto, that is not authoritative on socialism, but Hassan Piker is.
No, the Communist Manifesto is not authoritative on socialism.
Hassan Piker is. Hassan Piker, who you said is a fucking limousine socialist. Yeah, he's definitive on that, but not the Communist Manifesto.
Hold on, I just want to be clear. You're telling me that something that was written almost 100 years ago is more authoritative on what modern-day socialists believe than what Okay. Well, I encourage you to do more research when it comes to politics, I guess. I don't know what to say.
Let me step in here. So if we're appealing, at that point though, Destiny, if we're appealing to what people who call themselves socialists actually think, hey, the authoritative source of what socialism is the actually existing socialists today and what they believe in, right? Then in terms of whether or not we're like acquiescing or appealing to the socialist movement, then yeah, like the Bernie Sanders platform concessions of 2016 would count within that reasonable framework, that he was able to raise the minimum wage requirement of the Democratic Party National Committee. He was able to add in things like legalizing marijuana. And so we're hopping back and forth between, oh, well, some socialists say socialism is decommodification of labor.
The difference there is Bernie Sanders is appealing to liberals. Liberals are trying to appeal to socialists, right? When Bernie Sanders recommends the legalization of marijuana, that's not socialists, right? That's Bernie Sanders trying to do something in a liberal capitalist framework. He didn't say the government needs to grow weed. Sorry.
Okay. So number one, I take it that you take back the thing you said in the beginning of this debate of when do socialists ever appeal to liberals by just now saying that that was an appeal to liberals.
100%. Yeah.
No, because I said at the beginning, I don't really consider these people socialists. Follow the conversation, okay?
Okay, so now Bernie Sanders isn't a socialist.
I don't consider these. I didn't say at the beginning of this conversation. I don't really consider these people real socialists. No.
But Destiny, but what you did say was the actually existing contemporary socialists like Hassan are authoritative on what socialism is. And so if people like Bernie Sanders, and if I could just finish my point, fuck's sake, if people like Bernie Sanders and people like Mamdani and people like AOC say things like publicly owned grocery stores and single payer healthcare systems and the expansion of a public education are socialist policies, then we have to agree with them, or at least we have to say that they're a major influence on what it means to be a socialist policy under your own framework.
And I would like an opportunity to speak.
No, I want Destiny to really clarify that really quick. Just like
I really don't, because then I'm going to sit here with my hand on my dick and balls for the next 10 minutes. So I would like an opportunity to speak.
Hold on.
You guys can go back to yelling at each other.
Counterpoints, please. Destiny was asked a direct question. I'm going to let him give you a direct
question. Connor should go right over me. Okay, listen, I don't think that you look to the lawmakers in a democratic system to see who your ideological thought leaders are for certain movements in the United States necessarily, okay? They're running in certain districts, and they're running under the confines of trying to operate within some electoral system so that they can get stuff done. I think that if you want to have this argument right now of like, does Bernie Sanders and AOC dictate what socialism is in the United States? Honestly, when you say it, maybe when Pisco said it, I'm not sure what plan he's on right now, okay? But when you say it, Econoboi, I think you genuinely believe that, and I don't think you're saying that like with stupidity, and I don't think you're saying that with malice, and I don't think you're a secret tanky or anything like that, okay? I understand what you're saying there, and I want to agree with you. But the problem is that when I go outside, let me explain where the comments come from. The problem is that when we go outside of where Econoboi is, there is nobody in the United States media environment, okay, that like calls themselves like really like a socialist that would look to people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and say, oh yeah, those are socialists. They would call those people stepping stones in the radicalization funnel and good like liberal capitalists at the end of the day, which is why these are some people like
I want to
turn.
I want to turn because frankly, you guys are talking past each other, okay? The reason why I've reiterated my definition of socialism as narrow and tailored is because I'm not doing no true Scotsman, okay? I'm telling you what a fucking Scotsman is. It's a Scottish person from fucking Scotland, okay? It's a dude. He wears a kilt. He has his fucking dick out all the time, all right? So the point is, I'm describing very specifically what it is. And the reason why I would be pissed about universal health care or high quality education being labeled socialist is, number one, I think most committed socialists who have read any books about socialism wouldn't agree with that definition. And the only way that I would stretch it is if you considered universal healthcare or universal access to healthcare as a part of the decommodification of basic human needs, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure was just food, water, and shelter. But what I'm saying is that the reason why I think that Econoboi and Pisco, whether they like it or not, are useful fucking idiots for committed socialists and tankies and communists is because they fucking muddy the definitions. They fucking blur it around. They're just like, oh yeah, every public service is fucking socialist.
Connor, give us one example, therefore. Give us one example of a socialist policy. Go.
Making food, water, and shelter available to human beings at the point of service for free.
So you think, so why is that socialist, but doing the same thing with health insurance isn't? And it's because one is basic human needs?
Because I'm going based on, well, yeah, because I'm going off of the fucking definitions of shit. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so healthcare is not a basic human need, but food is.
All you're arguing is that healthcare is socialist and should be incorporated into the definition.
I'm actually asking you a question. Is food more of a human need than healthcare is, as you're seeing it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I think that's cooked. I think that's fucking cooked
Wait.
and arbitrary. I don't think you can.
Hold on,
point
wait. I gotta ask.
Everyone needs food, you fucking idiot. Not everybody needs healthcare. What the fuck are you talking about?
Healthcare is as important as food?
No, I think food is more important than healthcare.
Okay, so you agreed with Connor there. I don't know why you just said
No. Wait. You're cooked in that I would consider, I think most people consider in basic human necessity need healthcare as well as food. Not that food is more important.
You asked him which was more important, didn't you? Did I miss that? Hold on, wait. Did he ask which one was more important, or did he say both important?
Which is more important?
Thank you. Okay, he did. So you just totally mischaracterized Connor's point there.
No.
You did.
Is it more in the sense of is it more of a basic? Is it more of a basic human necessity in the sense that it's a separate category of thing? That there are separate categories that food is a basic human necessity.
You don't need a code. You can just say you misspoke.
Hold on. Also, it doesn't. Hold on. Wait. Just to be clear, because you're trying to bail yourself out. It doesn't make sense what you just said. Is something more of this in a category, or is it just in the category?
No, it makes sense.
Is a Ford Focus more of a car than understanding is a car? That doesn't make any sense.
No, put out this category.
He fucked out. He realized he said fucking retarded. He's trying to walk it back to the word game. That's what's happening.
This is all weaselness. This is all weaselness.
It is weaselness. We agree with that.
Yeah. So when you say the word a basic human necessity, all right, a basic human necessity. In what respect is food a basic human necessity? With respect that healthcare is not. And I'm trying to see what are the metrics by which you assess healthcare to be more of a basic human necessity.
I would like to answer this question.
Wait, stop. I'm clarifying. No, wait. I'm clarifying. So just because I say something is more important, and I'm going to get Dustin to agree with this, just because something is more important, I consider something to be more important, doesn't mean it's more of a basic human necessity. Yes or no?
Who?
Stephen.
Okay.
You're tripping up your words. You just said again. You said more of a basic human necessity. But you mean to say it doesn't belong to the category of basic human necessity?
Wait, Stephen. Is the term basic human necessity and important the same?
No.
Okay, so saying something along the spectrum of basic human necessity and importance, those are different questions, right?
Debating whether or not.
Stephen, are they different questions or not?
Those are different words. I don't even know what you're asking.
So is something on the spectrum of basic human necessity the same spectrum of importance? Because importance can encompass more than just something that's basic human necessity, correct?
It can be more important along the spectrum, sure.
Okay, so so there's no contradiction, right? Can you identify a contradiction?
No, vegan gains, sir. I cannot identify contradiction.
So I don't want to debate
you asked
whether
food is more important than healthcare, and he said yes. You said
I
it was
don't.
cooked.
I don't think it's
interesting.
interesting to debate whether or not Pisco got dunked on just now. Okay, I want to go back to what Destiny said previously, which I thought was pretty interesting. So Destiny made the claim that the people that he would look to determine who are the ideological thought leaders of socialists, like people who label themselves as socialists, wouldn't be people necessarily like Bernie Sanders or Mamdani or AOC. Now, I would say this is pretty absurd for a number of reasons, okay? If we look at, hey, when people go and have public events, right? Like, hey, Hassan goes and has a public event. How many people show up? I'd say maybe a few hundred. Maybe he gets into the 1,000 plus club or something. When AOC and Bernie Sanders go out and have an event, thousands of people show up. They can fill stadiums, fill arenas. When people actually go out and express their political views, what are my political views? Millions of people voted for Bernie Sanders. Hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions of people across the country, vote for Democratic Socialist politicians. And so when we look at Democratic Socialist and Socialist politicians, they are clearly, by ideological standpoint and by their propensity to collaborate within Democratic Party frameworks and electoralism, much different than Hassan and much more emblematic of the standard by which we should judge people who label themselves as socialists in this country.
I would like to address this directly.
Just real quick. I got a quick. So hold on. I'm sorry. Why didn't the DSA then endorse AOC?
Because she came out with that vote on well, for the national DSA.
Too much of a liberal.
Retracted their vote because of the Iron Dome vote that AOC took.
Seems like kind of a problem.
But that's not a socialist. That's not a socialist.
The DSA is not socialist.
Destiny, you're obfuscating.
It's a bad example.
The point is not.
It's a horrible example.
No. Please go, Destiny. 1 second. The reason I say you're obfuscating is because my point was not that, for instance, within DSA, within all of these different Democratic Socialist politicians, even within those people, Mamdani is not the same as AOC, and no one DSA member is the same as any other one, okay?
We're not talking about one DSA member. The national DSA did not endorse AOC, the woman who runs
they did endorse Mamdani. They did endorse Mamdani, okay? They did endorse many other Democratic Socialist candides. I understand that there is
sure, but you're talking about your most
if I could just finish, I understand that there is an exception to the general rule of democratic socialists, like the organization endorses, different people who call themselves democratic socialists. But that's not an argument against my fundamental point, which is that when we agglomerate all of the people who call themselves socialists and run for parties and have people come out and vote for them and support them, that is a fundamentally different group of people on average by the normal distribution of their beliefs than people like Hassan. And I think that we should judge them by who they vote for more so than by,
who they
Hassan,
listen
basically.
to? Yep. Yeah. Okay.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Well, Destiny agrees.
Jesus,
You agree then.
shut
Okay,
up.
well then, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
go ahead.
I love you, Connie.
Okay. I think what happened with socialism was that if you actually go back to Bernie Sanders in the fucking 80s and the 70s, he was doing apologia for Cuba. He was doing apologia for the Soviet Union. He did apologia for Venezuela in the fucking 90s and thousands. And you know what happened? Each one of those places ended up being absolute fucking shitholes. And so what he had to do, shut up, is he had to move to social democratic models in the Scandinavian system and abandon his previous hardcore shit. But there's a question of whether or not social democrats are actually just hiding their power level because they're trying to inculcate a left-wing philosophy I'm not done yet, you cunts. Shut up. Why is it relevant? This is the entire conversation. The entire conversation is whether or not social democracy is being used as a Trojan horse in order to infiltrate the center left. That's the whole fucking conversation, Pisco.
So you're just you're asserting a conspiracy without much evidence. You're just saying, Bernie actually conspiratorially supports things like Cuba and the Soviet Union.
No,
and
he might have realized that these are very dumb ideas. He might have moved off of hardcore socialism.
Hold on, just real quick.
But Hassan hasn't.
Hold on,
the second thought hasn't.
Yeah, hold on, stop. The idea
not even the worst behaved here
expressing is that there are leftists who have said explicitly that their goal is to infiltrate the Democratic Party to move it towards leftism. It is not a conspiracy in the sense of it's crazy. It is a conspiracy in the sense that these people have said, this is what we're going to do. This is our goal for doing it. And this is how we're going to do it.
Why is that relevant to our discussion?
It's relevant to the discussion because should we, the Democrats, allow or invite into our house as influencers, invite into our house as staffers, invite into our house as people we will engage with or collaborate with in a friendly way? Should we be doing that when we know that this is their goal?
I'll answer the question directly. So it's only it's only quote unquote a problem insofar as it's aggregately true of the 10% of the Democratic Party base that's actually engaged in that process. Now, I understand that that's, that we don't have a poll that says how many of you are engaged in this kind of like Manchurian candidate fucking like conspiracy, whatever the fuck, like Connor is describing. But I would say that generally speaking, when I look at the actions of Democratic Socialists who win elections, when I look at the actions of Democratic Socialists and the platforms of them, they don't seem to be secret tankies. Now, I would agree that there are certain people, like people reference Hassan, like Hassan has said, oh, like I want liberals. Well, okay, yeah. Oh, people reference other left-wing alternative media influencers. Oh, sure, okay, like whatever. People reference people like that, and sure, yeah, to the extent that those people have like literally on record said that they're just trying to obfuscate issues and engage in this kind of like conspiracy or whatever, then I've already said at the very beginning of this debate that people like that probably shouldn't be invited into the inner party and be given platforms in Democratic Party circles. That's obviously true. That's trivially
true.
I
understand the disagreement here is that, and again, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but Destiny and Counterpoints think that you are allowing this to happen. Like,
hang on a second.
But they're saying
the disagreement is all semantic bullshit. Connor, is China a communist country or a socialist country?
Is what?
Is China a socialist country?
Are they moneyless, stateless, or classless?
No,
no, then they're not.
Okay. Is there any socialist country in the world right now?
I don't think anybody has like actually.
So who's no true Scotsman? So tell me.
No. I'll answer your question. No. Don't pretend you have a good point. You don't. Okay. Socialists. This is actually fundamental to my perspective. Socialists are fucking retarded, and they can't implement their worldview. Hold on. And they can't implement their worldview into the real world. So if you look at the 20th century, there's something called vanguard Marxism or Marxist Leninism. And they have these things called vanguard parties that take over countries and turn them into shitholes. And so we have people like Hakim, Second Thought, Hassan Piker, who tried to sweep this history away. No, I'm telling you the truth. And these are the people that I think that Econoboi and you are useful idiots for.
No. So under your vision, right? Single payer is not socialist. There's no socialist country. Socialism has never been done.
Because I'm using the definitions that socialists themselves use.
But by the way, and I'm sure,
Pisco,
Stephen,
you think you have a dump, but you have nothing. You're actually speaking from a perspective of ignorance. Go ahead and finish your point. I'll let you finish your point, but I'm going to tell you why you're speaking from a position of ignorance momentarily.
So I just want to acknowledge, Stephen, you acknowledge that what Connor just said is fucking so stupid.
No, Pisco, you fucking idiot. You're speaking from a position of ignorance. You need to shut the fuck up before you jump on another rake, you fucking dumbass.
So I'm asking a question, Stephen.
You're speaking from a position of ignorance.
Stephen,
you're speaking from a position of ignorance.
Let him demonstrate.
Stop.
Let him stop. Counterpoints. Let him demonstrate it. If you think
worst behaved person here, Wick. You keep moderating me. All these cunts have been arguing for fucking 30 goddamn minutes.
Stop.
Keep moderating, Connor. It's funny.
Stop.
Pisco. He's arguing from a position of ignorance.
Okay, then let him demonstrate that. Shut up.
Connor is misbehaving.
So I have a question for Stephen. Stephen, do you agree with Connor's contention that there's no socialist country currently and that single payer is not a socialist policy?
Both of those questions are very complicated. It's hard to yes or no them. The issue right now that we're having with this conversation is every single conversation that I ever had with a centrist that defended a Nazi, and now it's going to be, I guess, for the next however many years, every conversation with a center-left socialist or a Demsoc who inevitably will play cover for tankies. The issue is that you guys have come here to defend the proposition that socialists are AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Mamdani. Okay, AOC is not even currently endorsed by the largest socialist movement in the United States. Bernie Sanders causes major contention over his endorsement. All of these people run as Democrats, and you're going to pretend like this is the main voice of the socialist movement in the United States, and you're going to say it, and you're going to say it by talking about policies that they're using to appeal to
didn't hear an answer. Didn't hear an answer to my question.
Can I finish my thing? I can't finish.
Yeah, you're going to say that
again,
and then I want to explain why you're retarded.
Let Destiny finish.
Holy shit! You're going to say that these appeal to socialists in the United States because they're doing things that are popular amongst literally all center-left people, and then you're going to say that's an example for why we should try harder to appeal to leftists. When my question earlier is, let's look at the media apparatus. The entire left-wing media apparatus constantly attacks and shits on Democrats. And then you guys, like watching Pisco stumble through, not knowing 50 different terms related to what Hassan talks about on his stream, and play cover for him over and over and over again, whether it's the ridiculous TSA story or whether it's his ridiculous political beliefs that where Pisco pretends not to know what any of these things are, or not to know what, well, re-education camp, isn't that like getting your GED, LOL, right? That's the issue that people have when they look at it and go, okay, every time you come to argue with us about defending socialists, you talk about AOC and Bernie Sanders. But then when you look at the media environment, they're talking about fucking Stalin. That's the issue.
Okay, so I didn't hear an answer to the question, so I'll just ask it again.
Ask it again, and then I want to tell you why you're stupid.
Well, I want to hear an answer from Steven, so he just fucking filibustered. He's
so you can dodge. Cool.
Do you agree with Connor's contention that there is no socialist country and that single payer is not a socialist policy?
The whole point of this conversation is you're hiding behind the obscurity of what these words mean. It depends. There are some socialists who would say that there are no socialist countries. There are other socialists that would point to
most socialists would say there isn't any socialist
much the same that if I was on a podcast and a conservative influencer said, "What is a woman?" Define it in 3 words. I would say I can't really do that. It's more complicated than that. Unfortunately,
yeah. Pisco, can I tell you why you're confidently ignorant and kind of stupid in this conversation right now? Mm-hmm. I would like a minute, please. Yeah, so the reason why you're confidently stupid is because vanguard parties want to institute socialism as a stepping stone to communism. But in the early 20th century, Mao Zedong took over China, and then he totally fucked it up. He tried to do a command economy where he guaranteed food, water, and shelter, and he tried to do a massive industrialization in the middle of the 20th century. He was so stupid and so wrong that he caused the death of millions, if not tens of millions of people. And so what happened was through the 60s and 70s, they said, hey, Mao, this is kind of a bad idea. Maybe we should maybe we should do some state capitalism first. That way we can do this. And you know what he did? He culturally purged and killed the people that did that until he eventually died. And then Deng Xiaoping intentionally instituted state capitalism, which is where you have a free market hybridized command economy. And by the way, this is mentioned by socialists as a stepping stone to socialism. So you saying what I said is fucking stupid, you don't know dick about history, and you're overly confident for a topic you don't know shit about. So jump on another rake, you fucking dumbass.
Let me explain how Connor is completely wrong about what he just said.
Oh, suck a dick, Econoboi. You won't be able to.
Let Econoboi go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me explain how we're not sweeping for the 20th century socialists. Please do.
Okay. So, yeah, let me explain, dumb fuck, okay? Because you're completely wrong about your characterization of socialism, okay? And the history of socialism during that same exact time period. Okay, so, Connor, would you say that there were other socialists on the planet engaged in socialist advocacy at the same time as Mao?
Absolutely.
Okay, so your characterization that Maoism and that the people who followed Mao and the socialist models after that were in reaction to Mao is necessarily wrong because there were concurrent socialist movements to Mao.
Oh,
you understand that, right?
Hold on.
Wait, can you answer that
I can name
question,
half a
dumb
dozen. Can you name half a dozen?
Dumb fuck, can you answer that question?
What's your question?
The question is, since there were concurrent socialist movements to Mao, it is necessarily not true that socialist movements that came after were just in response to the Maoist model of socialism.
Okay, I'm going to be a dick because I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to be a dick about it. Yeah, there were concurrent movements, and a majority of them were Marxist-Leninist. They were Pol Pot. They were fucking Soviet Union. So if they're all fucking Marxist-Leninists and Maoism is an iteration of Marxist-Leninism, and if they share similar issues like authoritarianism, centrally planned economies, and dystopian fucking Orwellian nightmare states, then why the fuck do I give a shit about your differentiation?
You're wrong about your empirical claim. The Social Democratic Party of Australia, the Labour Party of the UK, the Social Democratic Party of Germany, every single one of the
nice ones who swept for the murderous ones. The nice ones who swept for the murderous ones.
Who didn't
the nice
do the
ones
murder
who swept for the murderous ones.
What? Socialist? Are they? Is Clement Attlee a socialist?
Jihadists aren't bad because they kill other jihadists. You owned me.
I have a question. Stop.
Jihadists aren't the same thing as all Muslims, which is what you're saying, Connor.
Question for you. If you shut up, I could ask the question. Econoboi, those the ones
Clement Attlee, Australia,
Germany, Australia. Did they have control of the government?
Nope.
Yep.
Yes. Clement Attlee had control. Wait, Clement Attlee had a massive...
Were they able to institute a socialist utopia?
Yes, but I don't know. So you're only socialist. So this is Connor's position. You're only socialist if you're able to institute a communist utopia.
No. You're a retarded person if you're a socialist. Hey, everybody else has been screaming. I'm going to scream too. You're retarded if you're a fucking socialist. And the government and the society might save you from yourself. So you might be an inefficacious socialist.
Okay, so
wait, can I ask a simple question that maybe this is like I feel like this is what this whole thing is coming down to, okay? If you were to take 100 people, have them read theory, study history, and then look in a room, okay, and you were to put, we'll say, Hassan Piker and then AOC in a room, and you were to ask them, which one is more of a socialist? What do you think all of those people would say?
I don't know because they.
I can't even believe. Then this conversation is hopeless.
Because
it's such an unbelievable answer to me.
Because to say that is to misunderstand the diversity of the socialist movement and contemporaries.
I'm not talking about the diversity of the socialist movement. I'm saying that AOC. Hold on. Is it fair for me to say that AOC is a way more outer perimeter socialist than like a bog standard? Then
what do you mean by that?
She likes outer perimeter more than she likes social.
What does it mean? Do you think there are fundamental differences, and what are the fundamental differences between AOC and something like?
Let's use Stephen's model. Stephen, if you put 100 people in a room and ask them, "Is Bernie Sanders a socialist?" How would they answer? Yes or no?
I honestly don't know.
That's your standard that you just gave. You just said 100 people. You just did that.
You didn't even ask me the same question. I was comparing two different people. I said 100 people well-read on theory. Do you want to say 100 well-read people? If you put 100 people who are well-read on socialist theory and you ask them, is Bernie Sanders a socialist? Zero of them would say yes. No, absolutely. Yes. You're so fucking retarded. No, he's a liberal and he supports capitalism. Definitionally, in every single way, he is not a bog standard socialist. You want to say he's like an outer perimeter? Dem suck. Maybe, sure, but like a socialist.
Dem what? No. Dem what? What does SOC stand for? Dem what?
Outer perimeter. What does outer perimeter mean? Outer perimeter.
National socialist.
To answer, because the reason that we got off on this topic was because Connor we haven't really taken the bait of Connor's constant conspiracy baiting about like people are basically all just synchrotankies that are socialists, right? But I think that it's important.
No, I think you guys are useful idiots. I think there's other secret tankies who say that you're useful idiots.
You actually completely conceded that you had a complete incomplete complete understanding of socialist history. You asked a
Absolutely
question that
not.
I wasn't able to
Absolutely
answer.
not. You said, oh, hold on. You asked me a
absolutely
question,
did.
so I'm going to answer it.
I didn't ask you
I
a
brought
question.
up.
What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
you said, are you going to concede that you have a completely
No, I said you
incomplete
conceded. It
version of
wasn't in a
history?
question
No, I don't
form.
concede at all. You brought up
No, that
Western
wasn't a
socialists
question,
who
just to be
were
clear.
you mentioned Western socialists who were
I didn't ask
under
you a
the
question.
control of Western governments.
So just
Fuck
to be
you.
clear, when the Western government is controlled by socialists, it's a socialist government. That's how elections work. Okay,
Hold on.
you
not.
take power. You
No,
take
it's not.
power, and
Trump
you
is a
take power,
fascist. Is the
you
current
take-
American
you-
government fascist?
Stop. Econoboi. If today we
Yeah, save him from
replace
getting
Trump,
raped.
hold on. If we replace Trump with pick a socialist that you think is a good socialist, would the American, just because now our president identifies as a socialist, does that make America a socialist country now?
So I'm not saying that these countries.
I'm asking
became
you a question,
socialist.
yes or no?
I'm literally answering directly your question, Wick. You gave me like one word before you interrupted me. Okay,
So no, I guess in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Destiny, I haven't been the one interrupting you for the most part.
No, I know. But you're
to
getting
your
covered
point,
with the guy
Wick,
who is, which is kind of what this whole combo is about.
That's
I'm just
true.
kidding.
That's
Sorry,
true.
go
And
ahead,
the
go
peace
ahead,
goes to your
go ahead.
thing, to be fair.
I want to hear the answer to your question.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that these countries became socialist because they had socialist governments. I'm saying they had socialist governments for many points of time in their history. Okay. Now, Connor.
Let
Now,
me
I'll
change
just
my question
Wick,
because
if I could
hold
please
on,
just
hold on. I got to change my question now. Again, if we simply take Trump out and put a socialist in, is America run by a
No.
socialist government now?
Obviously
have-
not. He
Well,
just
yeah,
got
wait,
raped
wait.
by it.
It's run by socialist government can be a reference to the party in power. So, for example, like Clement Attlee was he's a socialist government in the sense that they're
Oh, so is Zoltan Ramaswamy is New York City fucking
Racist
socialist
meme.
because
Nice
he's the
racist
mayor
meme.
now?
Nice racist.
Okay,
No. But
so-
when you ask the question, is the
Why
government
is
of the
that
day
racist?
socialist? If he
Yeah.
said
So
Zoltan
is New York City
Who's playing
socialist now
semantics
because
now?
Zoltan
Holy shit.
Ramaswamy?
Wait. Can we just? Why don't we just rant?
Oh, you're about to get owned again, so you're running away?
Wait.
Oh my God.
So I'm trying to clarify terminology, and you don't want to do that. So, like, what people refer to the government, meaning the people in charge of the government, it's a socialist government, doesn't necessarily mean that the structure itself is socialist. But
Okay, but
we understand
I'm
this
just telling you why
Okay,
there's
so
different meanings of the word government.
The reason why I bring up all of the dozens and dozens and dozens of different labor governments and social democratic and fundamentally socialist governments that have existed in all of these different countries and Europe and Oceania and a lot of Latin American countries as well is because at the same time that Connor says socialism is like essentially fundamentally in some conspiratorial sense an authoritarian ideology with authoritarian ideals that will do authoritarianism and kill millions of people. Concurrently to the very same things that Connor was describing, you had socialist governments take power through democratic elections, convincing
and they
people
get
to vote for
moderated
them,
by the Constitution,
running on socialist platforms, being in charge of the military,
being moderated by the monarchy, and then
Connor,
being moderated by the
Let
representatives.
finish, please. Yeah.
Can I finish the point? Can I?
Yeah, sure.
Been
You're just
trying- I've
wrong.
been trying for
But
20
yeah, sure.
fucking
Go ahead and
minutes.
finish the point.
Okay, so when the socialist government is now in charge of the police apparatus and the military and all of that stuff, when they lose the next election, what did they do across all of these different countries? They left power and there was a turnover in government. So your idea that basically every socialist movement is stamped with the authoritarianism of Mao is completely ahistorical, Connor.
Yeah.
Wait,
Okay.
I'm just curious on that. Wait, for a counterpoint. Would you consider Trump an authoritarian, even though he gave up power and will probably give up power at the end of this admin? Maybe.
Yeah, he's an authoritarian, and we have right now the U.S. government is like authoritarian in stature. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So I just
Don't
as
have
a
a
quick thing,
problem saying
it feels a little silly to say like we were talking about socialist countries, but now we switch to socialist governments, and then it's like you open up and look inside, and it's just
We weren't
liberalism,
talking about
capitalism, right?
socialist government. We weren't talking
Okay,
about
well, I think that was
socialist
probably
Why
what
don't we
Connor's
just
question
just
was. And that's
said
what, wait, but okay, hold on. Also, wait, you talked about like what socialism is, and you made it sound like the spooky thing of authoritarianism and all this. Would you concede that like a central tenet of socialism is the overthrow of the capital class, oftentimes via violent revolution? That is like a central tenet of socialism. No,
So
that's not
I would-
oftentimes. Like ideologically, definitionally, like in capitalism, you have private ownership where individuals can own firms and hire employees and scrape whatever
So
excess.
similar
Yeah.
I'll answer your question directly. Okay, so I would compare the question that you just asked similar to the development and emergence of liberalism. Liberalism developed and emerged across the planet, across different stages of development, across different points in time, and it did so in sometimes very violent ways, and in sometimes through legislative reform. And so similar, you say, hey, I was just going to say, you say, hey, an ideal of socialism is the abolition of private property. To which I would say, generally speaking, certainly that's a core tenet of almost every socialist thinker across the history of socialism. But that is not a statement on the method by which we get to that final end state. The method is up for debate, and it has been debated, and many different methods have been used by socialists.
World, okay, sure. So just following this like very briefly, in what world is there ever a peaceful revolution where all of capital is abolished?
So, what are you talking about? There's, you can imagine. Could you conceive of a world?
Logically possible?
Let me just ask you this: could you conceive of a world where the means of production are entirely collectively owned? Could you conceive of that?
I could conceive of that. Yes.
Okay. So, and people have said worker cooperatives, national industry, things like that. So we know that things like worker cooperatives and things like national industries and things like state services do exist, and we know that they've come into existence. They've come into being with democratic frameworks and liberal democratic sort of processes.
Sure. So far, none of this is responsive to what I asked. So I'm saying, how would we abolish all private property without violence?
So what I would say is that we would in this theory, we could abolish private property through the same exact means by which we've socialized property in the currently existing world, through the ballot box, through democratic initiative.
Do you agree it's logically possible? Stephen, do you agree it's logically possible?
This isn't a debate on veganism, and we're not talking about what's logically possible. That's not relevant to the conversation.
Why don't you just grant it? Then why don't you just grant it? Then why don't you just grant it? Then why don't you just grant it?
TikTok clips.
Wait. Then why don't you just grant it?
The issue with saying that we've socialized some things is we're not doing that because we want socialism. We're doing that because we recognize it as a failure of capitalism to succeed in some particular area. But if you want to move to a fully socialist state of affairs, it seems like that would necessitate, according to what almost all socialists will tell you in good faith, will require some form of violence, right? Because what do they say constantly? Cut a liberal and a fascist bleeds. When the revolution comes, liberals will side with fascists. These are statements that almost every single socialist I've seen, everybody, almost all socialists will say this, right? So in that case, doesn't having this socialist concept in mind necessitate some future revolution?
Why don't you make the case for it, that it entails violence?
I literally just did. Capital owners will never give up willingly their property, meaning they will always fight violently to defend it. This is why socialists say things like the institution of policing exists only to defend capital interests. I can walk you through Babby's first day of social media if you want. I can do it if you really want me to, but I think Econoboi should have an answer.
So if what you mean is violence is entailed by the use of the police force, if that's what you mean by violence, and enforcing these restrictions would require like enforcement, then I guess it would entail violence. But that's not the violence that you're talking about. You're equivocating violence.
No, I think it is too. The expropriation of property.
When I say the police is a violent institution, you know what that
means. Would you agree? Wait. Would you agree? Would you agree, Stephen? Wait. This is how I get. Wait. Let me. Wait. I
don't want to mute, but
you're such a bitch.
Destiny did ask a question. I do want that question answered, Pisco. He asked you, do you understand what he means when he says, well, repeat your question real quick.
When socialists view police as a violent institution, what do they mean when they say that?
I think that socialists, I think the socialists and libertarian oftentimes believe that it entails violence because they're enacting violence. But
I'm so sorry.
Wait, Stephen.
Whatever you say past here is irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
Wait, Stephen. So I'm just gonna ask you a question. Does capitalism require violence in the same way?
I don't know. I'm not.
Does it require violence? Does it require violence? Wait, does it require violence? Yes or no?
Yes.
Not necessarily.
Yes.
No.
Wait.
Violence? No, it doesn't. No.
Wait.
Enforcing private property requires law enforcement. Law enforcement is necessarily violent. It requires violence.
What do you? I don't know. You're asking the most simple question in the world. Is me owning a Red Bull? Does that require violence? Not necessarily. But if you got to be able to call the cops of Red Bull.
Wait, Stephen. Just relax. Does the widespread establishment of a capitalist system in America require violence?
Probably.
Violence. Define violence. What do you mean by violence?
Violence meaning the use of force. The use of force to defend property rights.
Am I muted? Yes. You have to defend private property rights through law enforcement.
You agree with Connor, don't you, Stephen?
He doesn't have
really.
to.
It's like
so you don't agree with Connor.
Let me know when I can talk for 30 seconds.
Do you know why he doesn't want to agree with you? He doesn't want to agree with you because he thinks that you're making them morally equivalent, and the violence that's necessary to enforce private property rights is not the same violence that's required in order to fucking expropriate property from everyone.
Okay, everyone's doing this thing where they're trying to tell like everyone else what their they're saying like counterpoints. Well, Destiny's saying this, and then Destiny will be saying
True.
"Well,
Although
Economist is saying
actually,
this," and
I will say
it's
Connor
not.
was correct though. They're like those are different types of violence. So, for instance, when you talk about does capitalism necessitate violence, and then you want me to say yes to that, well, that's the same type of violence that any country, socialists included, would necessitate, which is the ability to enforce laws or whatever. But that's different. But that's different than a violence that is necessitated ideologically to prevent things like, say, free enterprise or private corporations, which is a type of violence that socialism would necessitate, but capitalism wouldn't necessitate. That's why I'm saying, what kind of violence do you mean?
Why is it interesting? So why is it interesting?
No. So Pisco, 1 second. So Destiny, I disagree that there's a distinction in the type of violence that we're talking about here. So for instance, what I mean by that is that insofar as
base.
Okay.
It's a panel. If you don't want to throw elbows on a panel, don't join a panel. Jesus Christ.
You're a vandal that you were brought on to fucking muddy the water. That's why you're here.
No, I'm not. I've been very clear in my definitions, Pisco, the guy who's jumped on 3 rakes so far today.
Brought on because the guy I asked initially declined.
I thought I had a good point.
So counterpoints is here to kind of balance.
Fuck you too, Wick, for saying that I'm your second date. Jesus.
That's true.
Okay, I still love you.
But anyway, so I don't think it's different, Destiny, okay? Because, for instance, if you were to say, hey, like, necessarily, if you were to achieve the socialist ideal, that requires violence. Insofar as what we're talking about is a reestablishment of what property rights means, right? So, for instance, if we were to say, like, oh, we did Econoboi with socialism characteristics, we got 90% of the way here, and now the socialists are in power, and they're going to go the full 100. They're going to say, hey, everything that's currently privately owned has to be sold to
Hold on, you're playing. Wait, but you just got.
I feel like I didn't even get to.
No, because you hold on, because you just skipped all the hard part. If you're going to tell me that how do we go from 90% public ownership to 100% public ownership, that's not very hard to do. You have a majority stake in every single company in the entire country. The question is, how do you get to 90% without expropriation?
Okay, so you get to, okay, first of all, I'll just say this briefly. If that's the harder part, then it's surprisingly achievable. Norway has literally already socialized 2/3 of their nation's wealth. They already have collectivized 2/3 of the national
their
wealth.
Firms?
Now,
wealth is not. Wealth is. Why did you say that? I can't tell if you're being intentional now. Hold on.
So I can answer your question directly.
Wealth. My question very specifically was, how do you do it without expropriation? To have 90% owned firms.
Use Norway as an
but you
example.
talked about wealth. I'm not talking about wealth. I'm talking about firms.
The reason why so a lot of the firms in Norway are still privately owned because Norway doesn't have as developed a capital market as the United States. So shockingly, if the United States had Nordic institutions for collectivizing wealth, we would be much more able to socialize our domestic economy than those economies, because a lot of the companies in production in those societies aren't traded on liquid stock markets. Now,
hold on, wait. For Norway, I'm just asking for Norway. If you said of the 90% of the wealth that's publicly owned, how much of that is just tied to their oil? Okay, so wait. What you just said was a total lie, right?
I want to answer your question.
Who the fuck cares?
Because controlling 90% of a broad market that's invested across a whole separation of multitudes of industries is way different than just socializing your means of energy production.
No, that's not what Norway. You have a misunderstanding of how these institutions work, and you have such strong opinions on them, and it really it pisses me off at a certain point. You don't know what you're talking about, but you have these very strong opinions. Norway, yes, a lot of the wealth that they've accumulated doesn't necessarily come from their oil wealth. It comes from the returns to their oil wealth being socialized in a public fashion. Okay, so I would agree that one of the prerequisites to Norway's specific success is its oil wealth. But America is a resource-rich country. America has a huge amount of land rents that we could socialize. America has things like a central bank that can create money, debt financing, other tax revenue. The financing for this is just not a question. America is a richer society than Norway. We have more money to move around.
Financing is not hard, Econoboi. That's why I'm asking about expropriation. The United States government could. I'm not retarded. You know I'm not retarded. They could print off however much money they want to.
That's why I'm saying we could get to 90% without expropriation, because we have such liquid markets where people are willing to sell their shares for essentially the strike price. And really quick though,
finish your point, but then I want to get us back on track.
We're getting bogged down. Essentially, my main point, skipping past all of that, is that Destiny made the claim that it necessitates violence. Now, insofar as going from whatever percentage of voluntary transactions we could get up to, 60, 70, 80, 90%, whatever, and then we have to go to the rest of the way with some amount of expropriation. Yeah, you'd have to pass a bill and reestablish some property rights, and you'd have to buy out those businesses.
This is such a weasel.
Taxation is expropriation by definition.
From private owners.
I can't make the point.
Go
No,
for it.
because
Okay, move on.
you're speaking in like the most like wish.
Let's move
Like,
on, let's move on.
you'd have to reestablish
let's
the
just
property rights.
move
You'd
on.
have to steal all the firms from all the
Wick
private
said he
owners.
wanted to do another debate about this specific.
We can make it one-on-one or something.
So the
For
question,
now, just real quick. For now, I do have a question, maybe to get to kind of take us on a track that I'm interested in. Right?
wait. Wick, just hold on a second. Why don't we grant that socialism only means what Stephen means and what Connor means? So let's put aside the semantic. So if what you mean is by socialists are specifically Marxist-Leninists who wants to do this mass expropriation, then agreed. Then agreed. They shouldn't be in the halls of a democratic power. Where's our disagreement?
No. Hold on. This is another problem between liberals and progressives, and I'll be very calm while I articulate this. My frustration with Econoboi is that expropriation is defined necessarily. Don't fucking touch your nose and close your eyeball.
We're moving off of that.
I'm on your panel, you bitch. I can talk when I fucking feel like it. This isn't the Pisco and Destiny hour, you fucking dickhead. So, the definition of expropriation is the action by the state or an authority of taking property from its owner for public use or benefit. Taxation is necessarily, definitionally, expropriation. So what we're saying is that, or at least what I'm saying, is that I believe a fucking free market needs to have a balance between the expropriation of property for the public good and the private market allowed to do its own thing. A private market is necessary to generate the wealth in order to create a welfare state. So if Econoboi is saying, well, we can just go ahead and command slowly through the government voting in, increasing control over public utilities and the parts of the market, then I don't care if it's done democratically. I don't give a fuck. Fuck that. Nice I'm going to vote against you, and you're not part of my team.
Okay, nice take. If what you mean by
you're not my team
is if what you mean by socialism is only those people who espouse these Marxist-Leninist ideas that you find to be odious.
Nope. I've defined it for you 7 times. It's the decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production. You can get it through democracy. You can get it through democracy. That doesn't make it good.
Pisco finish, and then I have a question.
Let's get through the semantic bullshit. If what you mean
it's not semantic. I've given you a specific definition 7 times.
Counterpoints? You got to let him at least finish.
Then he needs to listen to what I'm saying and represent it
He's not listening to what you're saying. It will be
vandal.
apparent in what he says.
Yeah,
represent it accurately.
So we have a semantic difference. I'm trying to chart that out. Like,
no, we don't.
We literally do. When I say semantic
so
difference,
you disagree that socialism is a decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production?
Yep. So I think socialism means much. Wait. I think socialism means much more than that because for me, use is meaning.
That's
right?
a good. Hold on.
Holy
that's
shit!
Actually, excellent point. Pisco, what do you mean when you say socialism?
So I think when I think socialism. When I think socialism as at its broadest, I understand socialism to be workers owning the means of production. That's at its broadest. I think that there's a lot of shades of gray there, and socialism doesn't just mean what Connor means. And the reason that is, I think that meaning, right, that of a word is its use, right? Like if what we mean by a word is there's no like correct objective answer to what socialism means. My theory of like what words mean is how they're used by people in the real day. There's multiple definitions, but
then Destiny is right that AOC, Bernie Sanders and Zodan Salami are not socialists because they don't believe in workers owning the means of production.
When you say Destiny is quote unquote right, what do you mean by that?
I just said it.
He's right according to his own definition.
AOC,
and your definition.
AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Zoltan Manslami don't fucking advocate for workers owning the means of production. So by the definition that you just provided for us, they are not socialists. So it's kind of silly.
I said at its broadest, it's workers owning the means of production, but means of production.
What does broadest mean?
Broadest means it includes the most amount of people. So if you're
so if they identify as a socialist, wouldn't they necessarily need to follow under your definition?
Connor,
this is like the fourth rake.
Connor, shut the fuck up. What I'm trying to chart out.
Make your words make sense.
I'm trying to chart out a semantic difference. Do you understand what I mean when I say a semantic difference?
Having to do with words
and their meaning. Okay, so in your version of the word socialism, you would not ascribe, for example, single payer to be a socialist policy. You wouldn't say that someone like Bernie Sanders is a socialist. You wouldn't say that China, as it currently exists, is a socialist country, because your definition of socialism is much more narrow. I say, let's get past that semantic difference. I think, like, in terms of how people use the word socialist, you guys are just wrong in terms of the usage of the word. But
Okay.
let's get past that. If
No.
what you mean,
I will
Why?
not get past that.
we just spent this whole time arguing about what the right definition of socialism
Mine's
is.
correct.
I'm
Yours
gonna-
is
I'm
wrong.
gonna throw us back on
Wait,
play
wait,
because you're gonna circle you both are going to circle.
I'm right, you're
again.
wrong.
So we're going to hold on, stop. We are going to get to a more, I think,
Disagreement. So you're using it. I think that you guys have a proprietary
Absolutely.
definition. I think you guys have a proprietary definition of the word socialist. That isn't how people use the word, and it's not charted in.
Before we move on,
socialist-
I want to articulate why this is important. I think that you, in Econoboi, are, I'll be rude, even though I love you, I think you are useful cock sleeves for tankies. And so you're
You're a
trying to
vandal.
expand the definition of socialism to mean
I'm
nice,
not trying-
redistributive social services.
Sorry,
and so
sorry.
I don't like it when you do that. And I disagree with you.
You're here to give cover to Stephen, and that's fine. But I just want to be very
What
clear. about
cover
I'm
has
talking
been
about.
given?
Yeah.
I've argued with
Yeah,
you directly
so
the
you're
entire
trying to make
time.
the you're
Don't
trying to make the
plant
conversation.
this little
You're trying to
gay
make the
idea
conversation.
in your
You're trying to make the
audience's
conversation
mind that I'm somehow
impossible.
sweeping for
You're making
Stephen.
the conversation
I've
impossible.
contended with every single argument that you've given me. So
You're
don't
making the
pretend
conversation.
that I'm here
You're
to
making the
fucking
conversation
sweep, you
impossible.
fucking dick.
So
I'm gonna-
Wick,
okay.
please.
Pisco
yes.
is going to finish. He's going to
So-
finish his point. He's going to ask his question, and then we're going to see
Yeah.
if it goes anywhere. And if it doesn't, I have productive ways we can go.
So
But
I think
counterpoints, hold on real quick. Counterpoints. If you can't control yourself, you will be controlled. Okay? I'll
Okay.
mute you.
I
Pisco,
thought this
go
was a
ahead.
panel.
so when
It is
I
a panel, but I will mute you.
when I'm talking
until-
about when I'm talking about the meaning of a word, I'm really just asking what the ordinary usage of the word is. Like, in terms of what the definition ought to be. If there's any ought to what a word is, it's like, well, how do people use the word, right? So that's what I take to be a semantic difference. And you saying you have a vision of the usage of that word, socialist, which is much more narrow than my conception of how that word is used by ordinary people. But we can put aside that, right? Like, let's put aside this semantic difference about what words ought to mean or what they actually are in any objective sense, and let's just get to the meat of it. If what you mean by socialist doesn't include AOC, doesn't include Bernie and their policies, doesn't include what I think most people would take to be socialist policies, then, and it only includes people like Marxists, Leninists, and Maoists, then yeah, then what's the disagreement?
Okay,
They shouldn't be
here's my
included. They shouldn't
exact
be included.
disagreement. You asked a question, I'm going to answer it. I feel like I am using a narrow and tailored definition because I think that the people who self-identify as that and actually have read the texts related to the ideology, that's how they self-identify. And I think that they are using progressives and liberals and social democrats, and they're conflating these terms back and forth so they can expand at which point they are relevant in the modern social parlance. And I believe that you and Econoboi are helping them, and I don't like it, which is why I'm here to tell you I don't like it.
Connor just keeps Connor, you keep doing this. You keep just asserting that there's some sort of conspiracy broadly within people who identify as socialists to try and sort of co-opt liberal frameworks. And when I point out
Econoboi, you've said that 5 times.
1,000,000th time. So I haven't
I would like to address that
because I was about to finish the point. I haven't just said that 5 times. I've included an explanation of the history of a huge range of different democratic, liberal, socialist movements over time that weren't just pretending until they got power and then they would become authoritarian Maoist.
American context.
In fact, they were just Democrats, it turned out. And you keep ignoring that and then reasserting without any backing your conspiracy about the broad 10% of the base of the Democratic Party socialist movement.
Stop, Econoboi. The problem here, right, is that they say that they're doing this. That there is a broad members of American socialist people,
a very small minority of them say that.
Okay.
Again,
I would also like to address
that
this.
they are doing this.
And everyone on this panel,
the Vanguard. Why do you think they call themselves the Vanguard? Why do you think they chose that name?
Every single person on this panel said, to the extent that there's evidence that people are doing that, they should not be included in the movement.
We condemn it.
Condemning specifically the Vanguard today.
Wait. Hang on. So I want to be clear about it. So the Vanguard, I haven't heard.
Shut up, Pisco. I'm asking Econoboi. Today on my show,
you
are condemning specifically the Vanguard.
What did they say?
I don't know what they said. Reference it.
Okay. So first of all, one clue is in the name, the Vanguard.
No, what
And
did
we
they
talked
do?
about-
Or what's the
What did they
evidence?
say?
What did
What's
they
their
say?
position?
I'm giving you evidence.
Like with
right?
Hassan, there's evidence that he literally says he just wants to co-opt democratic frameworks. Like
Correct.
he's literally said this, right? So that's pretty
How about
good
the
evidence.
tweet today or yesterday calling Pete a rat, or that he looks like a rat, or that he
Yeah.
reminds him of a rat or whatever?
Is that evidence that he is trying to institute a
He
authoritarian
could just be
communism?
mean.
Wait.
What is
no,
acceptable
I'll-
evidence that somebody's trying to institute authoritarian communism if they work in the media?
Wait. Statements like Hassan gave, correct?
So they've done shows
I-
about ignoring the Constitution and ignoring the Supreme Court, dissolving
I
the
haven't
Supreme
seen
Court.
that. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well,
So,
yeah,
so,
I'm telling
so
you
to the extent that they have those beliefs, and to the extent that to the extent that they have those
And they call
beliefs,
themselves the
and wait,
Vanguard for a
wait, to
reason.
the extent that
It's like if I
wait,
called
I'm
myself
just
the rapist,
wait. Let me give you what you want. First of all, the rapist, really?
the rapist, right? Yeah.
Big yes for
okay.
an answer.
So if they have the position that we should ignore the Constitution, if they have the position that we should, ignore democratic systems and get rid of all that stuff, then no, they should not be part of a quote unquote coalition. And if what you mean by be part of a coalition is be at the halls of power, design policy, that kind of stuff. If the prescription is don't talk to them, I think that's a different kind of thing, right? I don't think is anyone
I'm
here
not-
saying
I'm
that we
not-
shouldn't
I'm
talk
not
to them?
describing don't
All right.
talk to
Okay.
them.
Oh, okay. So to the extent that they have these positions, to the extent that they're crypto about their authoritarianism tendencies, well, there's no disagreement. They shouldn't be a part of the quote unquote
Personal
coalition. If what you
agreement.
mean by that,
It's deeper than that.
What's the disagreement?
Can I? Okay, here. Okay, you know what? This is what this feels like. This is why it's such a crazy conversation. Okay, if you have two groups of friends, and people in one group really likes Chinese food, and the other group really likes Indian food, and you're trying to vote on where to go to eat. Okay, every weekend. All right, and you have this new group of people who show up, and they say, "I really like wings," and that's the only fucking thing that they ever say about your Chinese food that they like. But you include them in your group of friends who are voting to say, "I want to go eat Chinese food," because they only show up for the wings. But you know that when they go back to their own group of friends, they say, "As soon as we have enough wing voters, we're going to go to the fucking pizza place." That's the issue that we're running into here. Is you're pretending like these guys who only like wings are supporting your entire Chinese food weekly outing, when in reality they're just trying to build up enough people, and they've all blatantly said this, so that they have enough
Yes,
people
they are.
to go to the pizza place next week. That's the issue that is
just to
what's happening.
respond to that briefly, okay, and I think I can speak for Pisco on this as well, that my point is that is true with the great minority of people that call themselves socialists.
And I understand.
Destiny, I know you're going to say the media figures. You're going to say
yes, and you're going to say that of all the voters or whatever. I'm talking about the entire media apparatus. That's why earlier I asked you, can you give me a single person in the media apparatus that identifies as socialist that also supports the Democratic Party?
But then Destiny, okay, so to address your point extremely directly about the entire socialist, Wick, I was about to answer
one individual.
No, he said that's why I asked you, but I'm addressing his actual point, which was about the media apparatus.
To answer if you can.
You want a separate question?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. It's probably the case.
Wait,
that almost
isn't that
everyone
problematic? If you're now identifying as a socialist,
that's a different point. That's a different point.
No, it's the same question that I asked earlier, and it's central to the point that I just gave right now. I asked you for a single person that says they actually like Chinese food, and all you can give me are people who support $15 minimum wage or wings, who really want to go to the pizza place, which is have the Vanguard Party, which is why they're called the Vanguard, which is why they shit on Chinese food or the Democratic Party over and over and over again. And that's an issue.
If we're talking about media figures who call themselves socialists, in terms of like of them who sims for the Democratic Party, it's certainly not a long list to the extent that I could Google and find names right now for you. But so I would agree with that. And so I've already said, and everyone on this podcast seems to be in agreement, that to the extent that many people, and it is a problem, flatly, it is what you're describing is absolutely a problem. To the extent that people in the media space that do that do the exact things that you and Connor and Wick have referenced, Pisco and I are in complete agreement. It's not that we just disagree. It's that we are in complete agreement that these are not people who should be part of the inner party, who should be part of strategic discussions, who should be part of the messaging of Democrats. What I have said, and this is my last sentence before I guess Connor wants to go, is that people like this should simply be used as other platforms for Democrats to engage in for the purposes of fundraising, for the purposes of spreading their message. If Democrats want to go on Hassan's show or the Vanguard or Brianna Joy Gray or fucking Kyle and Crystal show, then that they should do that because they should engage in these alternative media speeches.
Sure, but you understand
they are part of the inner party.
Sure, but you understand that it undermines the fuck. Wait. You understand that it undermines the fuck out of the Democratic Party if we're saying that all the good things that we support, I call myself a socialist, and I think all the good things that have come from the Democratic Party have come because of socialists. And also, all of the media people that call themselves socialists fucking hate Democrats, and they constantly attack the Democratic Party.
You agree with Econoboi?
It's not that simple, bro. I know you really like the yes or no's, but it's not really that simple. It's not that simple.
So to Destiny's question,
I don't agree with Econoboi.
So to your question, Destiny, I do fully agree that it is a problem that there is a disconnect between the typical socialist politician and the typical socialist media figure. I do agree that that's a problem. Okay. The only thing that started this entire discourse for the last week was what I said was, I just don't think that these alternative media, socialist media figures have that much of an effect on electoral outcomes for democratic socialists and for liberals broadly. Okay, and
Wait,
I think
I
that
don't
we
know.
can
Wait,
generally.
what is the? Can I ask you then? Like, so when you look at like the 40-point drop in say like Dearborn supporting the Democratic candidate, do you really think that none of these alternative media spheres have any influence whatsoever on? Are they just completely irrelevant, or?
I would never say something so stupid as they don't have any influence or that they don't have some determination of the outcome of elections. Okay, I would never say that. When it comes to Dearborn specifically, I think that it is more sensible to say several things. Number one, I would say that generally speaking, it seems like a lot of Muslim immigrants revert to their not revert, but like there's like a coming to the mean of the average American conservative view over time as they assimilate. You see that with other immigrants groups as well as Muslim Americans. Number two, I think that you see that with Muslim Americans specifically, they are particularly sensitive to the Israel-Palestine issue, and whoever was in government, it blew the fuck up during a Democratic administration, and so there was a lot of a reactionary sentiment with that issue in a lot of Muslim communities. I think generally explains
that reaction, sure. But two things. One, so you said that it was a problem. I'm not going for gotchas here, okay? I don't give a fuck about gotchas. I know Pisco but I'm not looking for gotchas.
It's not a gotcha.
Yeah. But the issue is that all of these elections are so close. So if we agree that it is a problem, and then we talk about how I don't know, or never mind, that was edgy.
Wait, do we have a disagreement?
I don't think that they reverted. Wait. I don't think that they reverted to the mean in one election cycle when it came to voting issues. Okay, I think that if you want to say that they voted because they were super energized by the Israel-Palestine issue, it doesn't make sense to me that they would vote for Jill Stein. Because if you really cared about that issue, I think that the clear choice, even if you think they don't handle it as well, would have been the Democrat candidate over the Republican candidate. So the fact that there were so many people, but the fact that there were so many people in the center left saying, or not center left, but so many people in the left-wing media apparatus all saying they're both the same, all protesting the DNC, all protesting all the Democratic candidates. Isn't that a problem?
We agree it's a problem. Wait, stop. Why does he keep repeating? Is it a problem? You just heard Econoboi and I agree it's a problem. Why did you repeat that at the end?
Well, because if it's a problem, then I don't know if we should be trying to appeal to the socialists, which is the name of this panel, appealing to leftists. We should be trying to court them if they're actively attacking the party, and these elections are already so close, and they're already turning off so many of our voters already. This is just
Okay, this is why I wanted to ask the question earlier, because I think this gets to the heart of the matter. It goes us back on track. And this is a question to Pisco first, and it
was directly relevant. What Dusty
damn, I've been waiting for 20 minutes.
I will counterpoints. I will get to you. I promise. But
when he behaves himself, when he puts his hand up, you yell at him, and when he yells, you yell at him.
You Econoboi.
I'm not yelling.
You're not reinforcing good behavior on this panel.
Let me fucking get my point out, okay? Then maybe we can get to something, okay? The question becomes, who should, as a whole, the Democratic Party, the DNC, etc., who should they be aligning themselves more with? People like AOC or people like Josh Shapiro?
Yeah, I don't understand how that is related to what Stephen was just talking about, right? So we agree. So
it's not. He was trying to get us back on topic. Weren't you listening?
I'll answer the question directly. So to answer the question directly, I think that because socialists are about 10% of the Democratic base, generally speaking, the platform and the types of candidates that we put forward should probably tilt moderate if the only thing we care about is absolutely maximizing our vote share. Okay.
And winning elections, yes, fair enough.
Now I'll say two things. I'll say that that's not necessarily always the literal only thing that we would care about. Now it's obviously very, very important. But then number two, just because they're only 10% does not mean that we should completely ignore them or treat them as Nazis or completely ostracize them from the movement, that they have to also be appealed to, because the Democratic Party is a party of centrists, moderates, like what you could call like moderate tilt left people, slightly more tilt left people, progressive people, and socialists. Every single one of those groups needs to be represented.
If we can demonstrate that by excising or
What do you mean by that, excising? What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I'll explain.
I need
once
to
I
keep
ask
the
my
debate
question.
going.
Well, wait. Okay, wait, hold on. I love you, but we're the two that are debating this topic, right? So Wig might have his feeling of it. When I say excise, we're talking about the media environment. If you call yourself a socialist and you constantly shit on the Democratic Party, Pisco, now I'm happy that your messaging evolved on this. Yesterday, you were saying you should go on places like Hassan Stream to fight with them. Sure, that's fine. I agree with that. Nobody, I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Wait. You just started something changed. What changed? What changed?
That before it seemed like you were a lot more lukewarm on whether or not Hassan is like kind of an ally or whether or not those types of people can be appealed to.
No. You find me one place where I said Hassan is an ally. You can't. I never said that.
I'll comb through your entire vibe. I don't know. Listen, the same way that you've been in this space for 2 years and you can't remember a single thing Hassan has apparently said. I'll say I don't have your exact quote here, okay? But all I'm saying is that it shouldn't be the goal of Democrats to appeal to the center fold of what socialism is.
What do you mean by excise? What do you mean by excise? I don't know what you mean by that.
If somebody calls himself a socialist, if they constantly shut on the Democratic Party, then you don't treat them like they're part of your party. Wait a
second. No. So now we're totally different. If someone calls himself a socialist, because you agree Bernie Sanders calls himself a socialist, right?
We're talking about the media sphere.
Okay,
media.
But Econoboi calls himself a socialist.
Sure.
So we should excise him from the party, correct?
If Econoboi was coming on my platform, it's not a yes or no question. I don't even know what part of your life you would, even in your lawyer school shit, you wouldn't have picked up on this yes or no autistic bullshit. So I don't know where any of this comes.
Answer the fucking question, bitch.
That is fucking retarded.
Answer the question. Answer the question. Are you going to excise Econoboi or no?
Answer the question. I'm answering the question. If Econoboi was coming on my stream, is probably generally right now it's going to be to fight over things like we are right now. Yes. And when Econoboi earlier said, "Oh, we should go on stream and hash out something," it's going to be to fight over stuff. Somebody who identifies as a socialist when the entirety.
Should we excise him from the party?
If somebody is running a show or running a program and they call themselves socialists, earlier I asked you guys, can you name a single one of these people that don't constantly shit on Democrats? And you guys couldn't think of a single name. So I would say yes, that is the subject. Essential.
Should I stop Live and Learn? Should he be on the podcast Live and Learn? Should I excise Econoboi?
If all of you guys are going to start supporting socialists, yes, you should. It should be on Live and Learn.
Hang on, wait. So you think that Econoboi, we should not be platforming Econoboi because he labels himself a socialist? Is that right?
I think you should challenge him at almost all times.
He's like moving in the direction of there, much the same like Sargon of Akkad was like moving in the direction of being a neo-Nazi.
So even though Econoboi gives you his understanding of what socialism is, he explains himself just as a way I assume that Bernie Sanders and AOC would. Even though he says I'm not a Marxist-Leninist, even though you smeared him as saying he's anti-democratic when he isn't anti-democratic. So even though he caveats all what he means by the term socialism, just because he labels himself socialism, you think that he really shouldn't be on Live and Learn?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't platform him. You guys do what you want with your platform, but I wouldn't want to platform him and say, hey guys, go check out their podcast later. Where anti-democratic party people like the Vanguard will be treated as friends and allies that'll come on to shoot the shit for a while, and then immediately where they'll go after their own platforms to relentlessly shut on the Democratic Party.
So why are you hanging out with Myron Gaines?
You deny that any of that?
So why are you hanging out with Myron Gaines?
Because every single time I hang out with Myron Gaines, it's a combative interaction.
Okay, so like, but
wait, hold on, you recognize how stupid that question was, right? You realize you thought you had a big gotcha there, but like, you acknowledge like when I hang out with Myron Gaines, it's combative, right?
Wait, but you guys have a nice conversation, right? You platform him, you have a nice conversation.
Yes, but it's combative. Nobody comes away from my stream where I'm like, hey guys, make sure you go check out Fresh and Fit. Like they have a lot of cool shit.
You guys have been going back and forth. So just to be clear, when the Vanguard came onto the podcast, they were challenged.
They were challenged, correct? Wait, can we get him to agree that? Were they challenged, Stephen?
Barely.
Barely, you fucking nitpicking fuck. What do you mean they were barely challenged?
As in, and if you watch it, I think that for the most part, you're gonna like.
Yeah, because you're fucking reacting like a fucking sped, and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they're fucking being nuanced," and you're reacting that way. And you
Mr. Yes or No is going to talk about nuance.
The way that you're fucking presenting it makes people think that we're socialists. Econoboi is socialist, but no, we absolutely challenge them on specifically on the point of specifically on the point of Manchin.
Example of where
specifically on the point of Manchin, specifically on the point of student loans, Stephen, you agree we did challenge them with facts and logic, correct?
Yep, facts and logic.
So when you said barely, what did you mean barely?
It means that you were being fucking nice and you were playing footsie with them.
That all of you guys had a similar political project in mind. You all shared like a political goal, a political project. Yes.
Okay. So why do you get that impression when we're disagreeing with them on specific?
Because hold on, fuck this. Everybody else has talked for 30 fucking minutes. I've had my goddamn hand up for 30 fucking minutes. There needs to be some variety on this panel. I'll tell you why. It's because you were playing fucking footsie, and when they came to the next fucking day,
what do you mean by playing footsie? What do you mean by playing footsie?
Let him explain. Let him explain.
All right. So when we were talking about how, oh, everybody's being so fucking mean to Hutch the fucking next day and all that bullshit, then you're like, oh, well, you know, we technically challenged them on their perspectives and all that kind of bullshit. But realistically, anybody who watched it tonally felt like it was like a 5.5 versus 1 against Hutch.
You guys sound like the biggest bitch woke scolds. Tonally,
Oh,
what are you
shut the
talking
fuck
about?
up, you pussy.
What are
Anytime
you
anybody
talking
else
about?
talks, you roll your eyes like a fucking valley girl, you fucking twat.
This is like the 2017 centrists.
You're
all over
basically
again. It's the same thing.
Saying,
the classical liberals.
okay, you did disagree with them, but your tone, it sounded like you were nice in your tone.
Yeah, it sounds like you're the fucking useful cock sleeve for socialists. That's what it sounds like.
Like Steven isn't fucking nice in his tone with Myron Gaines. He is. He absolutely is.
And he still has contention and he still clarifies the ideology,
Yeah,
which, by the way, I still have a point from 40 fucking minutes ago that I wanted to make. I've had my hand up for 40 fucking minutes. Can I? Yeah, thank you. Okay, anyways, my turn. Thank you. Thank you for coming to the Pisco Destiny show. All right, so earlier, Econoboi made a fucking point saying that I kept appealing to conspiracy. And he's made this point 3 or 4 times, so I want to address this briefly. Mao, Pol Pot, Joseph Stalin, Tito, Castro, every leader in the fucking Soviet Union came together through fucking revolution. Okay, they all came from fucking revolution. Then not just that, but Gramsci was arguing about why leftists aren't relevant in fucking Western societies because they have strong social order. And Marcuse and modern lefty philosophers try to normalize Gramsci and Marcusean argument in order to infiltrate Western societies in order to make them more socialist. Corbyn, Sanders, and Noam Chomsky all swept for authoritarian socialist regimes when they were in power and only disavowed them once it was found out all of their authoritarian abuses of their populations. So when you say, Connor, you're being a conspiracist, I say, no, plenty of useful Western lefty fucking idiots sweep for authoritarian socialist regimes. And on top of that, they're using the playbook that Gramsci and Marcuse wrote in order to subvert Western societies. So don't accuse me of conspiracism when the conspiracy is documentable in the words of the people who espouse this philosophy. Thank you for my TED Talk. Back to the Pisco and fucking Destiny jerk-off hour.
Let's see if you've been listening to what I've been saying. What do you think I would say in response to that?
That you're not like them, that there are plenty of democratic socialists who are actually nice, whose primary motivations are democracy over socialism. They're incrementalists. And so as a result, they're not interested in sweeping for the human rights abuses of these authoritarian regimes. And they're not conspiracists. They actually just think that this is the correct ideological outcome.
If you understand that that is true, and that is at the very least my point, then we've already admitted, we've openly said multiple times that certainly there are a portion of socialists historically and a portion of socialists that live in America that do have these kind of like ulterior motives, right? The thing that I've said is two things. I've said, number one, that historically that is not the great majority of socialist movements, that there's at the very least a
massively disagree with that assertion,
large divide between those two different, methods you could say of socialism. And in America, I don't think that even close to the great majority, I don't think even 80%, not even 90%, probably 99% of the 10% of people that vote for Democrats that call themselves socialists, they don't engage in that.
Okay,
so
I don't agree. And I want to make one more point before we get to the Pisco show. Okay, one more point before we get back to the Pisco show.
And then we can get back to the Pisco Destiny show. I agree.
Okay, so if I told you that I was a democratic fascist and I believed in political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism, but I don't agree with the mass slaughters. And as a matter of fact, I'm like a human fascist. I don't want to do ethnic divides and I don't want to do, racial divides. I actually want human beings to be put into a political corporation, a body, and I want flexibly authoritarian governments or whatever. you would probably still call me a fucking idiot, because even though democracy was my primary virtue, fascism is still a dog shit ideology, right?
The question that I would ask you is there a robust history of people calling themselves fascist and then winning elections and then leaving after they lose elections? And you couldn't answer yes to that.
Okay,
you couldn't answer yes to that.
Econoboi, last point, and then we'll go back to the show. Last point, then we'll go back to the fucking the drama show, okay? Last point. I think the reason why, I think it's like a house cat versus a lion. Okay.
Wait, do you
house
recognize
cats,
what I just said?
House cats have been psychologically studied. Hold on. House cats have been psychologically studied that if they were capable of eating their owners, they would. Okay. I think
you're just trying to say socialists are pussies. I know.
I think that, yes, I think that Western socialists are house cats. They cannot eat our faces, so they won't eat our faces. But I think if they were the size of a fucking jaguar, they would start eating our faces. And with that, Pisco, start yelling at Destiny some more.
Okay. I want to give it to Pisco.
I'm trying to hear the criticism of what we did with the Vanguard, and it sounds like Connor, you identified it, and earlier in our conversation as well. Tonally, it was footsie. Is this your problem with what we did on the Vanguard, Stephen? That's just it.
Okay, I'll tell you. I think
tonally. He asked Stephen. Go ahead.
Well, tonally, I am prepared more for the Hassan stuff than the Vanguard stuff, because I'm more familiar with his content. But like, for instance, when like you immediately and easily would eat the idea that like I would prefer Hassan over Trump as president in a system with absolutely no constraints. Like that's
you can go to Hassan, but I just want to get clarity on this. So as you sit here, do you have a problem?
Totally, my impression with the Vanguard.
You do have an issue. Okay.
My impression was that almost all of the pushback there was coming from Hutch, and I think that's why you guys fought about it the next day, is because Hutch felt like he was kind of on an island there, and that while you guys did disagree with some points, like the student loan thing, you were very quick to make a whole bunch of what I would call insane concessions about Biden, whether you're calling him Trumpian or whatever, because he gets mad at the attorney general or whatever else, and that seems weird to do, almost minstrel showish, in front of a couple of people who are literally hardcore like socialists who shit on Democrats constantly. That's a surprising thing to me.
So you acknowledge that we did disagree with them significantly on the student loan point. Do you acknowledge that I said you can't bully Manchin? Do you acknowledge I said that? And I supported Hutch on that. And you also acknowledge, by the way, that I supported the notion that Biden had great policies and that they were downplaying, for example, the Inflation Reduction Act and other measures, correct?
Yep.
So I did vocalize.
Do you acknowledge that you are giving me exact quotes, and what we're criticizing is the tone? You acknowledge how pointless that is, right?
So I'm just asking. So is your problem the tone of the disagreement and what we're doing?
The problem is that it seems like you guys share a political project, when I would argue that the socialist movement in general and all of the media figures, the Vanguard included, do not share a political project. That while you obsess about building bridges with them, all they do is shit on your candidates in exchange. You will never have a scenario with the Vanguard or any of these other people like, oh, we should try to build bridges with more moderate Dems. It will never happen. As evidenced today with Bristol Wall.
One of the problems the tone? Is the tone one of the problems?
Well,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So he said yes, Pisco. So really quick, let me ask Destiny a question. So, would you say that the ideological disposition of someone like Joe Manchin versus the ideological disposition of a guy like Joe Biden, would you say that they share a political project?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say that.
Wait, you're doing this thing again. Actually, I'm not even going to allow this. I'm sorry. You keep doing this thing where you jump to elected lawmakers that are working in the system. I have no interest in talking. No, they're not. No,
they're literally elected representatives. Destiny. What the fuck?
They're not representatives of an ideological movement. They've won an election in a particular district. That's it. Are you gonna? I'm sorry. Hold on. Are you gonna go to West Virginia to figure out who the movement leader is of anybody on the left wing? I would answer that question. Are you gonna go to West Virginia to figure out who is the leader of any kind of left wing movement?
That's not what I'm doing, Destiny.
Then why would you say that Manchin represents some like leader of some movement? They won elections. I'm not talking about politicians. The Vanguard are not politicians. I'm talking about the media and environment. That's what I'm talking about.
Would you? Destiny. I'm just using them as an example. Would you say?
No, I'm telling you why I don't like the example. I don't like the example because these are elected officials, not people in the media.
Okay. Well, you referenced.
Okay, hold on. I think I could bridge this gap, perhaps. Right. One of the
no, there is no gap to bridge. He can't find an example in the media, and that's my issue. That's the exact problem.
Okay. Well, look. How about this? How about we just stop? If that's the case, we've already said this several times. Okay. That insofar as people in the media don't share this political project as you've described, they're actually, to Connor's point, they're just hiding their power level and they're actually authoritarian socialists or whatever. we've already agreed several times that that's the extent to which they shouldn't be involved in like the strategic or like, you know, whatever, like in like deep involvement within the movement means. We've already agreed with that several times. So how about this? Well, we can maybe if there's another question you can ask, because we've actually already agreed on that topic. Is there anything
but then I think
else?
the question, the strange thing is, so like, for instance, right? I think that strictly definitionally, I might be considered a eugenicist because I'm okay with people getting tested to see if their child might have Down syndrome, right? And not having those children, right? Technically speaking, that's a form of eugenics. But realistically, would I ever go out and call myself a eugenicist? Probably not, right? So it's just strange that when you're working in a media environment and then you take on the label of socialist, if you were to look up any other and all other socialist content that's being created in that sphere, all of it is dedicated to shitting on the Democratic Party. That's the problem. It's only gotten worse in the past 8 years.
Shouldn't we promote Econoboi? Shouldn't we promote Econoboi? Econoboi, you're saying like, where's this media of a socialist figure who
no, you should fight him for our entertainment.
So shouldn't we therefore, if we're looking for these kinds of figures, to take some of that energy perhaps, or to use the label and get it back to like the roots that that Econoboi is referencing, at least in specific traditions, referencing, you know, the Labour Party in UK and Australia,
MSNBC show.
Yeah, so on that front, why would I kick Econoboi off? Why wouldn't I promote Econoboi?
Well,
because that label has already been co-opted by all of it, not co-opted, more accurately represented. But then I guess this also goes back to definitional issue, right? Like if you put AOC and Hassan Piker in a room and you give a bunch of people who know what socialism is and they're read on theory, 100 out of 100 of those people are going to say Hassan is more of a socialist than AOC. If you put 100 people read on theory and you say, do you think AOC is more of a capitalist liberal or more of like a socialist? Almost all of them will say she's more of a liberal capitalist.
Square this for me. So you said earlier that, okay, it's not necessarily about the socialist label, and you agree that there's a diversity in what that actually means. It's about socialists within the media space. But then Pisco mentions, well, what if, like, just for example, what if AOC retires from Congress and starts an MSNBC show? Like, it sounds like you would be against that, but then you say, no, because she labels herself as a socialist, I would be against it. But now it seems like you're saying it actually is the label.
It's incoherent.
It's absolutely coherent. It seems like coherent because you're not familiar with any of the politics behind any of it. It would be challenging, but the issue that you run into is, so you could say, could they wash the socialist label and make it so that in your mind, I've said this, I don't say it again, I don't think that you are a secret tanky. I hope you're not on the way to tankies. I don't think you are. And I don't think AOC is, just from what I've seen. I don't think she's a secret tanky or anything. Could she, clean the socialist label in a way that these people are more compatible with a liberal form of government that's not like vanguardism or whatever? Maybe. But then if I look at what's happened over the past decade, when people like AOC and Bernie Sanders have popularized the socialist label, what actually happened? All of the people that worked with them and then were spun off became insane fucking radicals, right? A lot of the people who are criticizing them now are other socialists who are all saying they're fucking sellouts. It seems like that didn't work too well.
So if AOC started a show, media-wise, quit her job, started a show to promote her ideas, would you have a problem with it? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. So you don't have a problem inherently with someone having the socialist label and being a media figure, do you?
No.
So why do you have this prescription?
Let's get a clap. Can we get a round of applause for those? Yes or no?
Hang on.
Yeah,
I mean, this is all fucking
good
what you're doing.
Yeah.
So why is your prescription therefore, if you don't have
I can't do whys. I only do yes or no's. Can you format that in yes or no question?
I'm gonna focus it. If it's the case that you,
or multiple choice, I could do, yeah.
If it's the case that you wouldn't have a problem with AOC if she stopped being a politician, became a media figure, start a show, why then? So you don't have a problem with it in principle. Why would you have a prescription that we should kick Econoboi off the show because he's
Steven, hold on. I have an important question. Steven, I have an important question, and you need to answer it yes or no, okay? Do you think that Nick Fuentes should be able to have a TV show?
Nice cover for Steven. So
Steven, do you think do you think that Nick Fuentes should be able to have a TV show?
Nice meme.
It's a free liberal country.
These are actual questions. These are.
Oh yeah, no shit, Pisco. But the reason why I'm asking this question, hold on, Pisco. Apparently you can't understand where this is going. No. I'll go ahead and explain it because you don't understand where this is going.
Wait. Can I real quick?
Steven, I've waited 7 years.
You can go right after. This is a really important point. Hold on, you can go right after. I swear. Okay, this is. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, should AOC run as a far left progressive and never use the word socialist? I would say absolutely yes, and we would all be better off for it. That's what I would say.
Okay,
not the question. Not the question. Wait. I do want to hear where counterpoint is going.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
Wait,
so,
why? Why
because
aren't you
I'm
gonna make Steven answer
explaining the
question?
point because you
guys are
pretended to be
running cover.
obtuse.
Hold on.
You
on.
pretended
Stop.
to miss the
What
point.
No, he
point
did
did
not.
he not
No,
answer?
he memed. No, come on. You know he memed there. You
No,
know
no, no.
he memed there.
No, Pisco.
You know.
I am
Rick,
making
you know,
a point.
Rick, stop.
I'm making a point. I'm making
He's like
a
a
point.
white blood cell. He's a white blood cell, and he's trying to stop this. 'Cause
No,
you know
no, I'm not. This is my point. This is my point.
Connor had a legitimate point.
This is my
on the
point.
yes or no question, whether or not AOC should make a TV show has no bearing on any other part of this conversation. There was a retarded question.
It's called an internal critique. It's called an internal critique. Hey, dipshit. Hey, dipshit. Hey, dipshit. Hey, dipshit. Hey, dipshit. It's called an internal critique, dipshit. Dipshit. It's called an internal critique.
What is it?
My turn.
So you had a standard. You had a standard. Wait, and everyone
turn.
knows. Holy shit, Connor. Everyone knows your standard. Your standard was, I don't really have a problem using the socialist label if you're a politician, but I do have a problem with it with your media figure. So I'm testing your logic. I'm testing
You're
your
not testing
standard.
it. You're
Yes,
taking
I
a
am.
person who's going from being a politician to being a media figure who happens to also be the most popular left-wing person in the United States of America. It's
I'm trying to
obviously
see-
not the standard. You're going to the outer perimeter of the outer perimeter of things.
So why don't you answer it and distinguish it? So why don't you answer instead of memeing out of it? Instead of memeing out of it.
I already did answer. Do you forget the question?
No,
Did you get the answer? I already said yes. If you want to do a show, I guess you could, but I don't think you should use the label socialist. I think it's harmful to the country.
No. I'm not asking.
I know you're not asking because you're only interested in the narrow yes or no questions to go down your particular dialogue tree.
This
This
is why you have the prescription that we should kick Econoboi off the show because he used the socialist label. That's your prescription. You actually want
the
us
name
to
of your
kick him
show
off.
is Live and Learn, not Something Learn, right?
So you literally want us to kick Econoboi off because of the label. I'm trying to test your internal consistency, and you're sewing the fuck
We're
out
not
'cause
here to test my entire internal
Why
consistency.
wouldn't we do
It's
internal
not
critique?
preposterous. I asked you guys only if you can name a single other socialist figure in media that supports the Democratic Party, and neither of you dipshits can name even one fucking person. You can't even name one person, and you sit here swaying out about whether or not we should be appealing to the left, and you can't even name one.
Econoboi. Wait, is Econoboi an example?
No.
No, he's not. Why? So we shouldn't kick him out.
He literally just fucking converted. Holy shit.
For just converts, we shouldn't enforce this kind of
Do you think
orthodoxy?
that Nazis, hold on, do you think that Nazis can have a positive influence in our media sphere to push people?
If I could, you mean logically possible, then yes.
Okay, wait, hold on. Do you think that there might be at least one person that could help the Democratic Party or help people get elected? By the way, identify as a Nazi right now. Also, let's say, by the way, AOC identifies as a Nazi right now. Do you think that Nazis can help the Democratic Party? No, wait, I'm just asking. Hold on. I just want to say, hypothetically, do you think that a Nazi could have a positive influence? Yeah, do you see how retarded this fucking question is?
If by might be you mean logically possible, the answer is yes, but let me just put it to you, right? So your standard was that right now we should actually kick Econoboi off of the podcast because he uses the term socialist label. You wouldn't say the same for a politician. You wouldn't say the same for a politician running for office. And so you were given the example of a politician who stops being a politician, becomes a media figure. Should we treat them similarly? So like if AOC said, hey, I want to be a part of Live and Learn. And I'm like, what the fuck?
My turn. My turn.
Wait, let me.
No. I waited 10 minutes. My turn. I waited 10 minutes. My turn. My turn.
Wait,
We live in a capitalist economy.
fucking running
Capitalist economy. Capitalist economy. My turn.
You know where this is going. You know that's why they won't let me finish the question. The question is, if we kick out,
if you answer the question, you can ask the question when I'm done.
If we kick out Econoboi and AOC's like, I want to join Live and Learn, guys, should we say no?
Okay. No, hold on. Before you guys go on another fucking 20-minute fucking thing, Steven, write down the question. So I'm not white blood selling so you can answer the question. If AOC wants to join the show, should you say yes? Okay? So write that down so Pisco can't accuse me of white blood selling. The point that I was making, for those of you who have 80 IQ in the fucking audience, is that Steven, as far as I know, is a liberal. Meaning that he believes in freedom of conscience and freedom of speech. Meaning that socialists, hold on. I'm not done yet. Thank you. I'm not done yet. Thank you. I love you. Shut up. So if you ask Steven, hey, should a socialist be able to create a TV show? 99% of the time, he's going to say yes. The same way that I presume with Fuentes, even though he's an evil, nefarious Christian nationalist piece of shit, he's still going to say yes to the fucking question.
No one's talking about the right to make a show. No one's talking about your legal.
Asked, you fucking idiot. You said, should a socialist be able to make a show, you fucking idiot?
This is frustrating.
You asked that question. That's not my fault. You asked a dumb question.
No one's talking about.
I just have to ask the question. Pisco, do you think that there is any utility in gatekeeping a label?
Yeah, sometimes it can be.
Yes. So if you want to gatekeep Democrat or liberal as a label, do you think that it makes sense to say, hey, we can have a show, we can have you on it, but if we're going to call ourselves liberals, you can't be on it because we only accept liberals.
That could be for the for purposes.
Socialist.
Wait. No, that's a different question. So the answer is, if the show is called Live and Learn, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem in theory with you having a non-liberal be part of the show Live and Learn. If that has to do more with, like, I don't know, your artistic consistency or your title being consistent or something. But the question is fundamentally different. The question is, would it be your preference to kick off people who have that label? Not would we want them to change the label? That's not the question. The question is, should we even let them? Or by let, I don't hear, of course, to Connor's preposterous straw man, mean that like legally
straw man. It's a 1-to-1. You fucking legally, retard. Yeah, so Steven, like, answer the question. That way he can't accuse me of being a white blood cell because he wouldn't have any fucking evidence for it anyways. Answer his gay little question.
So no one here is talking. First of all, I don't like the heteronormative language. I think it's really distressing.
I love heteronormativity.
Yeah, I don't like the heteronormative language. It's distressing. But just by the way,
like the misogynist.
But you're not gay, by the way.
You're not gay,
by the way, you guys are soying out about tone, so you're the last people. But just to get a fine point on it.
Hold on, wait. Tone is insofar as tone to a certain person. We wouldn't be complaining if you had a bad tone towards somebody that was your ideological enemy.
You have a good tone. Wait. You had a nice tone with Myron.
Ideologically aligned with you.
Did you agree that you had a nice tone with Myron Gaines?
Nobody will come out of that.
No.
It is a combative tone. Nobody will come out of that conversation. Tone is more than just your actual timbre of voice.
Were you?
Hold on. How many people would come out of that conversation thinking, "Wow, Destiny and Myron seem to agree on quite a bit"?
And how many people would come out of that conversation think, well, sorry.
You got yourself. You knew how much how bullish you were.
No, stop.
Oh my God.
Steven.
In 8K, 120 FPS, fucking 120 frame rate, 240 refresh rate on monitor, broadcasting live, all the fucking world exposed.
No, I'm not backing off at any position. So I'm saying, if you watch the actual stream and listen to the words being said, then no one would come away from that thinking that we didn't combat them. If they watch the Destiny stream, where you're smearing us, or you're smearing us as socialists.
Wait. Question. If you would look at the chats.
So if you watch the Destiny stream where he's smirking out every 2 seconds, and if you watch the Destiny stream where he's like, oh my God, then maybe you get that impression. But if you
I'm curious. If you would look at the chats, do you think there were more people in my chat who were favorable to Myron in our conversation, or more people in your chat that were favorable to Vanguard?
That's not the analysis. That's not the analysis at all.
I don't want to answer that question because you know exactly. That's the whole point. Thank you. That's the point. Were you being?
Did you have a nice? Answer the question. Do you have a nice tone with Myron? Yes or no?
The point of tone is what is the message that you are conveying to the audience. The point is what is the message you are conveying to the audience. If it is the fact that at the end of the day, most of my audience, the vast majority, 99% of my audience, all disagree with Myron, that means that I'm doing my job. My tone is appropriate for that. I would not have the same tone if my audience was all agreeing with Myron. I would probably change my tone and become more harsh. I know that you really want to do this and yes or no questions, but unfortunately, politics is a little bit harder than yes or no. So you can keep asking the same yes or no question over and over again, but it's not really going to help you. The fact of the matter is, you just go to your chat, you see a ton of people spamming, fuck Democrats, fuck Democrats, fuck Democrats, over and over again. You don't see the same people in my chat does not spam that.
My chat does not spam that. So my chat does not spam that at all. My chat does not spam that at all. The question is, like, for you to be accusing anybody and tone policing anybody, in your conversation you seemed too nice in your disagreement, is fucking laughable, and everybody knows it because you've had nice conversations.
It's only laughable if your understanding of tone is that of a 4-year-old. The important thing is
writing fucking racist and shills.
And it's so crazy that my audience, by and large, 99% of them reject it, but your audience is halfway down the fucking ML pipeline. Halfway down the ML pipeline.
You say that, but my audience, those videos where I'm pushing back are disliked. My audience is not close to the Marxist.
Because I'm watching them. Yeah, no shit. You just said it. You just said it. Who's going to soy out about it the most? It's going to be people that are watching Destiny watching it. Yeah, no shit.
My own audience,
pushing back at all.
So my objectively did push back. We definitely objectively did push back. And you're not contending with the fact that you, Stephen Bonnell, you are a massive fucking hypocrite. If you're going to come to us and say, we need to watch our tone when we vocally disagree, and by the way, you take it completely out of context, that we need to watch our tone, but you're fine doing all the jokes you want. In other contexts, you think it's soy. You think it's soy when people call you out for tone policing, that kind of shit. But now with us, you're going to nitpick and say, oh, did you really? Did you have
Pisco, do you believe in stochastic rhetoric?
The purpose of tone is to communicate to the audience what your beliefs are, what their beliefs should be.
No one fucking believes it.
Your argument
do you believe in stochastic rhetoric?
If you go to my audience, they're not fucking Nazis. They're not all supporting Myron Gaines. Your audience is like, who the fuck knows if they're socialists or not? Half of them are, right? Like, unironically, not the nice kind like Econoboi, the Marxist-Leninist kind like your co-host.
Yeah. So wait, my co-host is Marxist-Leninist?
For Aaron as an ML, yes. That's like where your audience is the direction that they're going. Yes.
You understand that Aaron says she's not a Marxist-Leninist. Do you agree with that?
I don't identify people. You know that Trump doesn't call himself a fascist, right?
Yeah. So what's your evidence? What's your evidence that you're Marxist-Leninist? Go up.
Ask her about her political beliefs. The next time you're
No. You made an assertion, didn't you? Did you make an assertion?
Because she would support the violent overthrow of the capital class and would say the only way to bring about class consciousness in a social revolution is through violence.
What's your evidence of that? What is
prior conversations?
What is your evidence of that?
Prior conversations.
What did she say? What did she say? What did she say?
I don't have the fucking VOD offhand. Are you serious? You need me to have the VOD? You want me to have the exact fucking VOD right now?
Tell me what she said to you, bitch. Hey, bitch, tell me what she said. Hey, no, but bitch, what did she say?
I think he just said it.
What did she say?
Hold on. Let me do a little translating here. I would like an example from Destiny. What specific position or take that Straighter Ed has had that you feel leads you to believe that she's a Marxist-Leninist?
But in the past, when we used to hop on stream and like argue and shit, her position is generally that of like a revolutionary socialist.
Name one position.
She would support the violent overthrow of the capital class. She probably thinks the only way
have evidence for that. That's conclusory. What's the evidence? You say probably. Name one position.
You think I
just said that they had a conversation
in order to bring about the revolution requires a violent overthrow of the capital class.
Okay. And you're saying that Straighter Ed has made that position. That's her position. Is that she has said that the or maybe
this is years ago. I don't have
fucking Democrats. She canvassed for fucking what is this? Progressive
lesser of two evils, dumbass. These aren't contradictory positions.
You have nothing. You have nothing.
Stop. Pisco, you understand?
Except for him saying it.
Democrats does not mean that she does not.
So here's my evidence that she's not a Marxist-Leninist. One, I asked her, are you a Marxist-Leninist? You uphold it. That is wait. If you're going to take things that she said as evidence that she's a Marxist-Leninist, then you're going to accept things that I asked.
The whole point is to be subversive. No shit, they say no. What the fuck?
Okay, so
holy shit.
So is it your position she openly says it or she doesn't say it? What is it?
No, she advocates for the policies and positions that a Marxist-Leninist would, like the need for a vanguard party to have a. I already said the fact that you need a violent overthrow of the capital class is like the classic hallmark position of a Marxist-Leninist.
Okay, said that.
All right.
She never said
ask
that.
her. Okay, then the next time you guys have a show, you should ask her. You should say, "Hey, do you think that the capitalists would willingly give up control of their property, or do you think you would need some kind of like violent revolution in order to take the property from them?"
Yeah, I will. And if you're right, I'll give you a W. But the thing is,
the problem is if she is being subversive, all she'll have to do is lie to you.
Well, then it's literally unfalsifiable. Well, then it's literally unfalsifiable. Then it's unfalsifiable.
I don't think that she would lie about that.
Is it unfalsifiable? What would I, Stephen? What would it take for me to show you that she's not a Marxist-Leninist? What would it
you understand that right now, when both of you, right now, when both of you have staked your reputation now on this question that's publicly said, there's no real thing I could give you right now, right?
So I'm asking you, is it unfalsifiable?
I'm asking you. You understand that both of you are literally incentivized.
What evidence would it take to convince you otherwise? That's a simple question. You can say nothing. Nothing will convince me otherwise. You can say it.
Unless she has like genuinely changed her political beliefs over time.
Will anything change your mind about that position? Yes or no?
Like if there was like a debate that she had like 2 months ago and somebody linked me and she was like, "Oh no, like I don't think that like these ideas are necessarily good or whatever." Then they'd be like, "Oh shit, maybe she changed her beliefs."
So we'll go through the receipts of what Straighter Ed said, and if a thorough search of her records or of her fucking public statements doesn't say anything about a violent revolution.
The clips, go search.
Doesn't say anything about a violent revolution. Will you retract your statement? If a thorough search of her records, will you retract this claim that you just made that she's a Marxist-Leninist?
Hold on, I submit. Okay, here we go. We were linked this. I submit this to the chat. Go, play it. Wick, play it down for us.
Give me a second. Let me.
Damn, we got to look up clips and shit. What is this, history class?
Yeah, we got every single quote.
Did you substantiate that? Do you have a study?
Share your screen. Share your
Let
screen.
me pull this up.
Do you have a study?
Yeah, so everyone can see. Right? We could screen. Let me show you. I'm not sharing anything. I shouldn't. Okay. We don't want to wash here. Okay. Oh no, that's the wrong one. See, I already did it. There we are. Okay. Let me get through the commercial. Okay, give me a second. Yeah, blah blah blah. We don't care. Neil did grass type. Okay, here we are.
No, I'm not.
Oh, I
So you're
have to
not a
watch it.
socialist.
No, I'm not a socialist. I'm a communist. That's why it says commie.
I'm not a socialist. I'm a communist.
I can't tell
What's the
you.
Yeah?
Explain to him.
I actually feel like mainstream people who call themselves socialists are actually communists, but they're too scared to say that they're communists, so they call themselves socialists because right now that's kind of like where the cultural zeitgeist is permissible of.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're good. Okay, I'm good on that. I'm good on that one. I'm good. I'm ready for a Pisco to soy out for the next
Hold on,
5
hold on,
minutes.
hold on, before everyone, hold on.
Wait a second.
That's correctly stop.
Wait, he's
So is that sufficient evidence?
Let's stay here.
to you?
No, wait.
No, that her
The
saying
wait,
I'm a
the
commie
answer-
is
so
not
the-
sufficient
the-
evidence that she's
The
a communist?
answer, the answer is I know that Aaron says she's a commie, and Stephen, you can tell he's fucking soying the fuck out because I acknowledge that Aaron has said that she's a commie as a position she's had. The question wasn't is she a commie or not, and you are the one who says, by the way, Stephen, your whole point is you can't just go off the
You're
label.
absolutely
Wait,
cooked on this. You are smoking. Your
Destiny,
corpse
Destiny,
is
wait,
smoldering on
Destiny,
this.
Destiny, wasn't it you who just
Smoldering.
said? Wait, Destiny, didn't you just say? that
You're about
the
to pull out the
label-
most pedantic argument we've ever heard in our entire life.
Destiny.
She said, I think socialists are too
Destiny.
scared to identify as communists,
Destiny.
implying that it's a more radical position. But go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Save us.
Destiny.
Yeah, what do you got?
Destiny, did you
Yeah.
just say before that you should not take the label to be indicative of whether that person is the thing? Did you say that? That's all I'm asking.
I said it's not necessarily. It doesn't mean they're not,
Okay.
but not necessarily.
So for example,
So, for instance, when she labels herself as a communist and then she supplies additional argumentation saying, I call myself a communist because I think that most socialists are too scared to even call themselves that, that would be an additional argument for the label. Yeah.
Stephen, I just one more question. Yesterday, did you say that all socialists are communists? Yes or no?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think that all socialists are
did
communists.
say, you
Yeah,
did
because
say
you
that
said they were all
socialists
hiding
are
their fucking
communists.
power
Hold on,
levels.
You did say it.
having
Hold on,
right now.
did you have the
What does
exact
that have
same
to do?
position? Did you have the exact same position that Aaron just had? They'll get the clip yesterday of you saying all communists are socialists. You did say that, didn't you, yesterday?
I probably also said all
Yeah,
MAGA are like
bitch.
pedophiles. You think I actually genuinely
Yeah,
believe
bitch.
that all
Yeah,
MAGA
bitch.
are
Yeah, so you
pedophiles?
lying. So were
And
you
you're
right
got
then or
the
are you right
most-
now?
the
Were you
most
right then or were you right now?
argument.
Were you right then or were you right now?
Well, if it's like a serious conversation where somebody's trying to tease out my political beliefs, so I could, like when Aaron was inquired about her beliefs there, it's probably going to be a lot more serious than me just saying like fucking socialists or commies or whatever, right? For instance, when Econoboi earlier asked me,
Nice.
do you think that I'm like a techie or whatever? Like, no, I don't think so. I think Econoboi is genuinely where he's at politically. So I've already disproved the quote mine and you're trying to get me on. I don't think Econoboi is a secret
So
fucking
yesterday,
communist.
everyone can see it. Everyone can see it.
Notice
Yesterday,
how you've
Stephen,
moved
yesterday,
off, so everyone can
yesterday,
see
Stephen
he's
said,
desperately
yesterday,
trying to quote mine a
Stephen said,
four-word quote to get out the
yesterday,
fact that his cause is
yesterday,
actually a Marxist-Leninist.
Stephen
The
said,
issue is that Pisco didn't even know what Marxist-Leninist was until like 2 days ago,
yesterday,
which is why when
Stephen
somebody
said-
brought it up in a conversation, he's like, wait,
So-
do you mean Marxist
so
or do you mean
yesterday-
Leninist? Or when somebody
yesterday-
said white terror, he thought white terror, you mean hate
Yesterday
crimes? Like, what
said-
does that mean, right?
yesterday-
You're trying desperately to
yesterday-
assassinate me on a single quote, but the reality is you just don't really know much about these political ideologies, which is great and fine. That's why
yesterday-
people are able to use and
yesterday
abuse you guys on these programs, because you
so
don't know
ye-
anything about them.
So yesterday, Destiny said socialists are communists. There's no distinction. He said there's no distinction between socialists and communists. And
Was he being
now-
literal or was he talking about power levels?
Oh, so this is the
Well,
code
let-
now.
he's got
The
finish,
code
please.
is it's all jokes when I you can't hold anything to Stephen, obviously, because there's always fucking some opposite quote or something, and that he's just
No, I
joking.
just
He was
don't have
joking with-
autism, so I can
Dude,
understand
dude,
like.
holy
This is
fuck.
actually so
Holy
easy. I
fuck.
can ask. Wait, hold on,
Holy
wait.
fuck.
We can do this
I
right
can't
now. We can do this
believe-
right now. Hold on.
holy
I'm not even
fuck.
going to. I'm not even going to appeal to the moderator. Econoboi, do you think that I
Yeah.
think that socialists and communists are the exact same thing?
No, probably.
I mean, I do. I think they both
Okay.
suck.
There you
Oh,
go.
okay. So,
easy.
so,
Wow, crazy. Crazy how
so
that
when you-
works.
so
huh?
when you- so
That's
when you-
your
so what
debate
did-
partner, by
what
the way,
did
not
you
even the
mean?
moderator.
So what did you mean when you said that? Actually, what did you mean?
I don't know. What was the context of the quote?
I already know the context of the quote because I already saw the fucking clip. He was talking about power levels. He was saying that he's saying that socialists hide their power levels. They're actually communists. He's saying that fucking sock dems are hiding their power levels. They're actually socialists.
Which
He's
is
saying
funny
that
because that's
social
what Aaron
democrats
just said.
are hiding
He said
their
I think
fucking
a lot of
power
socialists are
levels. They're really
communists. They lie about it.
progressive.
Crazy
And by the
crazy
way,
crazy crazy
by the way,
Yeah.
by the way,
The distinctions
shut
within-
the fuck up, Pisco. You've been talking for 20 minutes. I waited my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
So by the way, this backs up your argument. You've said that social democrats are everybody who identifies as a socialist is actually a social democrat.
So now when you get caught, now there's shades
it's
of gray.
hyperbole, you
And now,
autist.
so now when you get caught, now
I'm
the
not
shades
caught
of
in
gray
shit.
matter.
I'm describing
Well,
something.
let Pisco go. Hold on, let Pisco finish. Pisco, finish your thought.
So now when you get caught with the contradiction, now it's like, oh, okay, I guess not all socialists are these fucking Marxist-Leninists. I guess when you call yourself a socialist, it doesn't really matter. So you get caught on that shit, and now you're taking the position that socialism is a broader term. It doesn't just mean the tankies. It doesn't just mean the Marxist-Leninists. You're absolutely correct.
Wait, from the very beginning of this conversation,
Didn't I say that socialism can encompass a lot of different things? Wait, hang on a second.
Why do you think
I don't know. The answer is I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
Somebody give me the transcript. So if I just reread things that you said at the beginning of the debate and then I repeat them in a condescending voice, am I making like a really good point?
The answer is I don't know. So if you acknowledge there are shades of gray socialism, then there are some socialists that you would absolutely have within the fold, wouldn't it?
No.
Oh,
just like there might be shades of gray classical liberalism, but if somebody calls themselves a classical liberal and then they associate with exclusively Nazis, I probably wouldn't allow that person to be within my fold.
Okay, cool. So
notice how that was a one-to-one analogy. You agree with
you want to go to no, it's not one-to-one. It's not one-to-one. No. I'll explain why it's not one-to-one. I'll explain why it's not one-to-one because Econoboi points you to a tradition, a peaceful, robust tradition of socialists in Western countries that don't include all the negatives that Nazism by its sort of
because they're house cats who can't eat your face yet. Because they're house cats who can't eat your face yet. Because they're house cats who can't eat your face yet.
That's why it's not a one-to-one comparison because Econoboi pointed you that record and you want to ignore it.
But that's not true though, because a lot of people would say somebody like Reagan was a fascist, and we came out okay from having Reagan as president. You're laughing now, but people use the term fascist, so they talk about Bush as being a fascist as well. And guess what? We survived that as well. And so people want to say that they were socialists or whatever. That's fine. But guess what? All of this worked under the fascists and the socialists together. Guess what? It worked under a liberal capitalist government, and that's the type of thing that I think we should be defending. Not a full-on socialist government because that's always been a fucking shit show, and not a full-on fascist government because that's always been a full-on fucking shit show.
I have a question for Econoboi. So, do you extend that you laid out the history of socialism, but when Straighteraid, who does a show with Pisco, right, calls herself a communist, do you extend that to communism? To communists have are just these things that can coexist with liberal democracies?
Okay, so I'll answer the question directly. Even Marx himself, this is a direct quote from Marx, said that things like lower stage communism would be stamped with the society that we lived in the past. Okay, now what he meant by that was that lower stage communism, as communism comes into being, that during that process, the stamps of the current society that we live in will be present in lower stage communism. What he meant by that,
historical example of a communist party, a communist taking power and in a liberal democracy surviving.
I'm telling you what the most famous foundational thinker of communism literally thought communism was.
I just want a historical
now, your question was, could communism exist within liberal frameworks? Okay. Marx himself advocated for many things that we would call liberal. He said things like freedom of speech, the equality of people, the fundamental freedom of people to coexist with each other were important characteristics of communism as it comes into being, and communism when we get to like supposedly the final stage of communism. So to answer your question, yes, liberal values would exist.
Which country where
can you admit that I just answered your first question at the very least? That I directly answered your first question?
Sure.
I needed an acknowledgement.
My follow-up question.
Okay.
My follow-up question matters too, right?
What's your follow-up question?
After you ask that is, okay, if that's possible, give me an example in the real world where it's happened, where a communist party has come to power and a liberal democracy has survived.
The only example that I'm familiar with, and I'm not totally familiar with the history of here, obviously I've been focusing on European experiments. The Kerala province in India, which like tens of millions of people live in, has been run by communists for basically the last 50 years. And they're actually a Marxist-Leninist party, and they operate in democratic frameworks, and they do basically, they have a liberal kind of style system of government within their general ethos. Now they are Marxist-Leninists, right? And I'll admit, I could be misunderstanding the area of Kerala because I'm not totally familiar with the region, but they do have elections, and they do have elections, and they do call themselves communists. Their leader is literally a guy named Stalin.
The reason I'm asking this, and I'll give it to you, Pisco, but I want to explain the reason I asked this question. The reason I asked this question is because the whole debate is about, right, like the accusation against you and against Econoboi is that you're giving cover to people who want to infect the Democratic Party with things, illiberal values that we would be against, that would destroy democracy, right? And your co-host has just admitted, at least we saw on 4K, that she is a communist, a full-on communist.
Wait, but when you say she's just admitted, you understand that I know, and I've never represented, and it wasn't an own for anyone to put up a clip of her calling herself a communist. But the reason why it was done and presented that way is because as though it were contradictory, when the whole point I was making is show some basis that she's a Marxist-Leninist. Now you can say, Wick, as you are trying to imply, that historically it's impossible, this kind of society is impossible. That's fine. That's not a contradiction, right? There are a lot of anarcho-communists or anarcho-capitalists where you could say, show me one place where anarcho-libertarianism or anarcho-capitalism or anarcho-communism has worked and it hasn't descended into chaos and some kind of kingship or some kind of thing. And yeah, you can be against them, but you would not call an anarcho-capitalist a fascist or a tyrant or an authoritarian just because there's no example of it working. It would be inaccurate to call someone, even if they're deluded, even if they think like, okay, my way will work, you know, all these other times they did it wrong, that it's not accurate to call that anarcho-capitalist or that anarcho-communist a tanky. It's just not. And I think that you must acknowledge that. Like, if you acknowledge that, for example, in the Spanish Civil War, anarcho-communists were communists were killing each other over these like differences in ideology and the support of Russia. Different things.
I take your point, but like when I say communist, I mean Marxist-Leninists. That's what I mean. Whether it's technically true or accurate, right? Just like as you said,
you don't care. You don't care if it's true.
Socialist people define it broadly and mean different things. What I'm assuming most people mean, right, when they say they're a communist, is they're a Marxist-Leninist.
Right. So why don't we just get past the semantics and actually get to the actual prescriptions? Let's get past the semantics and just say, all right, in terms of prescriptions, what do we want? Like, do you want me to cancel a show with Econoboi because he labels himself a socialist? Do you want me to stop interacting with anyone who labels himself a communist, or hosting a show with that? So what do you actually want?
That's not any of my advocacy.
I want you to own them in the marketplace of ideas.
But I do have one more clip we have to play. So if we can watch that just real quick. And then we will get through it. Sorry about the ads. I am poor. I don't have.
Was that a gay dating ad?
Because people just project onto it whatever they want.
Are you in favor of abolishing private property?
Oh yeah, I am.
Okay, well that's pretty simple.
You say these things and you have this tone of voice. It's like
you can't tell
smirk. So I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
She's so serious.
I know.
No, I'm dead serious on that one. I am. But I guess
is this what we wanted to see?
Yeah. What's the contradiction there?
I don't know.
There's no contradiction, right? Wait. So you understand, as part of your definition, right? As part of your definition for what socialism meant, it entailed people being against private property, and private property here meaning capital, all right, the means of production. So that is not inconsistent with someone being not a Marxist-Leninist. Just because you support the abolishment of private property doesn't make you a Marxist-Leninist. Do you agree, yes or no, Stephen?
Do what?
Do you agree, yes or no, that just because someone's in favor of the abolishment of private property, that doesn't necessarily make them a Marxist-Leninist?
Not necessarily, but if you're too scared to call yourself, or if you say you don't want to be a socialist, but you are more extreme than that and you're a communist, if you say that you're in favor of like the abolition of private property, if you say, we don't have to watch it, I guess, but our last clip is, and I'm sure you'll explain this one too, when you say things like, oh yeah, I wish AOC would like a socialist revolution in the United States, where revolution historically is like aligned with a violent revolutionary overthrow of the
AOC
class.
says revolution. Those politicians themselves are going to say
this is the
different
issue.
when the politicians.
You're making my point.
This is exactly why I said earlier, I don't think AOC should call himself a socialist, because this is the game. This is like the meme, right? I don't think AOC means a violent revolution when she says it. I don't think so. But this is the game.
But Aaron does. But Aaron does. You think Aaron does mean violent revolution?
Of course.
And that's based on what? So why are you distinguishing how AOC says it and Aaron says it? You justify that. Go.
Because when Aaron says it, Aaron says that she thinks that most socialists would be communists, but they're too scared to say it publicly, implying that her position is more radical than what most socialists would admit to.
There, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't show what you just said.
When somebody
definitely means something.
No, stop. Do you think it's more likely that it's more radical or less radical when she says that? What do you think that means when she says, I think most people wouldn't own being... No, I want you to explain that. When she says, I don't think most people would own being communist publicly, so they call themselves socialists. What does she mean when she says that?
I think she says that communism has a particularly negative connotation and denotation, sort of embodied in the definition. But that doesn't imply. That's just saying that she thinks that the distinction between a socialist and a communist doesn't make much sense.
This is not a sign game. This is ridiculous. Like socialist doesn't have a negative distinction in the United States, but communist does. Like, what a delusional take.
Wait. You acknowledge I didn't just say that, right?
What you said that?
I didn't say
that's what it said. Restate it.
It was comparative, right?
You said you made it sound like communism has a negative connotation versus socialism. I don't think there is one.
Did you acknowledge that what I said there was comparative? I said comparing socialism and the term communism. And do you agree that communism has a more negative connotation than socialism? Yes or no?
Not meaningfully, no.
you don't think that the term communism, so you don't think there's a meaningful distinction in the connotation of communism and socialism in this country?
No. There is not a single person in the United States where you go, hey, somebody's like, are you a communist? You're like, oh, no, I'm not a communist. I'm a socialist. I'm like, oh, who? No, that's fucking stupid. And there's not a single group in the United States where you're hanging around a bunch of people who are like, oh, I'm socialist. And you're like, oh, you're socialist? I'm actually a communist. And I'm like, oh,
we live in a different country.
It's fucking stupid. It's such a
Stephen, you and I live in a different country. Obviously, if the proof is in the pudding. Do you think that Mamdani would have won the Democratic primary if he called himself a communist?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay, I don't think he would have won. I think that there's a much more negative connotation on the term communist and they're a socialist. And I don't even think that your audience, as sycophantic as it is, would deny that.
I think right of Biden, these are synonyms.
I mean, I think it's okay. To be fair, I think it's obviously the case that, I mean, intuitively, right? I think there's a reason why a shitload of people in America identify themselves as socialists, but not communist, right? Like, I think that there probably is both an ideological disagreement with people who would generally call themselves communist, and also generally much more of a stigma for people who label themselves as communism. If these things were substantially the same and had substantially the same amount of stigma, then obviously you'd see a significant, basically mixture of those two. But you'd see you'd see a significant mixture of those things, but you don't. You see overwhelmingly people calling themselves socialists, not communists.
Because you're allowed to attach yourself like a cancer onto the democratic movement. That's why we have all these cute and clever words of like social democrat and democratic socialist, and like cute ways.
Why don't they call themselves
communist?
Why don't they call themselves democratic communists then? Like it would be like
sure. I think that's not the term that took hold. I don't know. Maybe eventually they'll make their way over there. I don't know why. If they use communism instead of socialism,
it's so beyond everything. So right now, you know that you're cooking on this point. You know but you can't optically right now. You can you know what?
You just heard your co-host say that they were for the abolition of private property, and they wish that more people would identify as a communist, but too scared to do so publicly. And you don't think that they're like. Radical as fuck in terms of the Marxist leadership, right?
Even when everyone, not even Connor will defend the point, white blood cell, he won't defend the point that communism doesn't have a more connotative, like negative, connotation.
I already said it did, but I don't think it's like meaningfully more negative. Why are you saying? Really? Did you not hear me say that earlier? Did you not say something more meaningfully?
No. So I'm obviously saying meaningfully more different. It's meaningfully different.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. I would like an opportunity to speak because I've been nice and quiet for a while.
Before you do,
fuck my ass.
I do have a question for the panel. If Straighterade wanted to come on and be interrogated about these things,
I would love to talk to Straighterade about that.
We have to talk about Hassan.
We have to talk about Hassan. Do it after, because it's fuck all that. Do it after everyone.
We have to talk about Hassan, don't we?
I mean, we've been 2.5 hours on this shit.
So what I want to talk about is like, all right. So
hold on. It was my turn.
Take Connor's critique. Yeah, I want to hear about it. This is what I'm curious about, and I want to know if you have anything to speak to. How do you think that we, mere mortals, live and learn? How should we conform our conduct? What would you like to see from us that we're not doing right now?
I actually have something that I think you would be quite amenable to. So if you actually think that capitalism and mixed economy capitalism is preferable to socialism, as I defined it, the decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production, if you think that's genuinely better than when you have MLs or when you have socialists onto your program, I would like to see you challenge them, not just on rhetoric and efficacy and all that kind of bullshit. I would like to see you fight them on the economics.
This is how cooked this is, right? Like in that conversation with the Vanguard, we weren't discussing liberalism versus capitalism. We were discussing the best way to get, wait, let me finish my thought. We were discussing the best way to get Biden's agenda. That's what's so silly about this whole thing. We were discussing about what tactically we should have done for Biden's agenda. So for you guys to paint this as it was ideological, and you didn't give pushback,
I don't need a 5-minute sermon. I don't need a 5-minute sermon.
It was about tactics to enact Biden's
I don't need or 1 to 5-minute sermon. So Pisco, let me tell you about this, okay? This is my problem. This actually, and it's indicative of this entire 2.5-hour conversation. What I'm saying is that there are authoritarian dissident freaks on the far left and on the right. And on the right, the dissident right-wing freaks have infected and destroyed the party that I was a part of. 55% of the party that I identified with growing up is now dead because of these fucking monsters. And so when I look to the left and I see a bunch of normie liberals, capitalists, fucking all this bullshit playing footsie with revolutionary socialists, not only does that turn me off, hold on, I'm not done yet. Thank you for your condescending look and your open mouth. I don't need it right now. Thank you. So when I see that, I'm going to criticize it, because what I don't want to happen is you and other people like you spending 3 hours sweeping for the fucking far left. And then as a result, they become more powerful and more emboldened. It's indicative in this conversation. It's indicative in the Vanguard conversation. It's indicative in the way that you talk about Hassan Piker. It's indicative in the way that you talk about the far left.
Fuck Hassan.
It doesn't matter. When people told you about the things that he's done, you said, I don't know that. I need to research it. Anybody who knows the name Hassan Piker knows half a dozen of the bad shit he's done.
I was dealing
ignorance.
Okay.
You plead ignorance.
One more question before we end.
Wait, no, wait. Can we?
We've been going for 3 hours. It's dinner time.
I could get to the Hassan thing. You said that you would vote for, and correct me if I'm wrong, Trump over Hassan. Can you explain why?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. You said
the issue that I have with that Twitter thread is that like there's a meaningful difference, and because it was like moving between all of these at some point in time. Of are you talking about casting the deciding vote? Are you talking about who you're more ideologically aligned with? Are you talking about voting for somebody assuming they would have full control of the party? Or are you talking about voting for somebody assuming they would have full control of the party and a full backing of the entire government? Like all of these questions have different answers.
Hassan's party wins. Hassan wins with Hassan.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like, are you saying like if Hassan were to win and was able to enact a significant portion of his agenda?
Yes.
Then I would vote for Trump easily. That's not even a question.
Okay.
Same.
Why? I would give it to Pisco. What about you? Again, Trump.
Yeah. So first, let me just clarify the question as Stephen did. I never intended to ask that question of Hassan without constraints. I think it's fucking delusional to think that that's how you initially understood that question, given the fact that embedded in your response, your initial
the other question doesn't make sense, Pisco. The other question doesn't make
Let
sense. If
Pisco
Hassan's
answer.
irrelevant,
Let
but he
Pisco
wins
answer.
political power, if Hassan's irrelevant, but he wins political power, then that vote doesn't fucking matter. So how is that your point?
So the conclusion that Stephen was interpreting that question to be Hassan without constraints is preposterous, given the fact that he was referencing as one of the reasons to vote for Trump over Hassan in that scenario, Trump's constraints over the Trump during his constrained period in the 4 years. He said, look at, Trump wasn't able to accomplish what he did in those 4 years. We haven't had to destroy the country. Clearly, he was referencing, Trump with constraints to Hassan with constraints. That's obviously what the question asked. That's what your people understood when they voted Hassan.
The constraints on Hassan would be significantly greater, though, than the constraints on Trump.
No, but the whole point is no one was understanding that question. You included when I initially asked it. I mean, without constraint.
Okay, wait. So just to be clear, so your question was, would I prefer to elect Donald Trump into a system today where he has undying cult-like support from the entire Republican establishment, okay, from all the media and from the Supreme Court? Would I prefer Donald Trump to be elected, or would I prefer Hassan Piker, who probably would barely even be able to be sat as president of the United States because even the Democratic Party wouldn't support him?
Sucks.
Wait. I want to hear you. That's the question that you were legitimately asking?
So the question I was asking is the question I was asking is who you would vote for president of the United States, carrying all the assumptions that you would normally take in any of those situations where, like, when you're asking who you vote for president. I wasn't implying, obviously, complete dictatorial control. Anyone who thinks that that's how I was.
Were you implying a similar level of control of what Trump has now?
I was implying whatever. I was agnostic as to like Congress. I was agnostic as to these.
How
other
can
factors.
you be agnostic to that? These are the most important things.
No. But what I wasn't asking, and what's clear that you didn't understand.
No. Don't say what you weren't asking. What was the actual question?
The question was the normal set of assumptions of.
There are no normal set of assumptions. Hassan isn't even a political figure. He's not a politician.
So if I were to ask you who would you vote for, counterpoints or Trump, how would you answer? You would have a set of assumptions, wouldn't you?
No, I would ask you for clarification. What do you mean? Like assuming
we're voting for a president of the United States constrained in the normal ways that a president is. And
constrained in the normal ways.
I can clarify. You guys are being obtuse. You guys are being obtuse because you hate each other.
Shut up. It's not being obtuse. Pisco is being obtuse. I'm asking a very clear and obvious question, right? If you're talking about what does it mean to vote for somebody, and you say with the normal constraints, as Connor said earlier, Hassan wouldn't be elected. So are you talking about a country that would have the political environment that would elect Hassan Piker? Here, you know what? Here's a better one. Given the same constraints of the system, would you rather have Donald Trump as a president or Stalin as the president?
Yeah, I think probably Trump. Yeah.
Then you agree with me.
Yep.
Wait. No, I don't agree with you. I think
because I think the grounding of your question fucking sucks.
I have no evidence. I have no evidence that Hassan is like Stalin.
I do.
I just don't know anything about. Yeah, I mean, like that's just valid. That's literally his political ideology.
Do you want me to read you the evidence? I could read you the evidence.
No. In the ways that matter. In the ways that matter. Like
Stalin, I could answer that.
So you think that Stalin and Hassan, so Hassan is a genocidal freak. That's what you think.
Yep.
I don't know if
I can answer with specifics.
like a Marxist-Leninist. Yes.
No, but he's not similar. Do you think that Hassan would enact a genocide in this country?
I think. Hold on.
Yes. What's your evidence that Hassan would enact a genocide in this country?
Yes,
he would
because
kill
they Marxist-Leninist. Because when other
100%.
vanguard parties are coming to power, like in fucking China and in the Soviet Union, they ended up having genocides. Yes.
So you think that Hassan is pro-genocide in this country?
You realize
I don't know if Stalin or now we're pro-genocide. That's a stupid question. You're trying to do this yes or no shit on complicated political issues because you don't understand any of the politics.
Do you
think that Stalin? Do you think that Stalin was pro-genocide? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
You're fucking retarded. You're a fucking retard.
No.
Stupid.
Wait, Connor, you agree with me that Stalin is pro-genocide, correct?
That's great. He's a Republican.
I believe. Hold on. Holy shit. I can actually answer questions, unlike you, Spurgs. Yeah. Stalin wanted to fucking kill the fuck out of the Ukrainians. However, Pisco, what I'll answer directly to you is that I think if Hassan was put into power the same way that Stalin was, he 100% would create thought crimes. He 100% would incarcerate people without trial. He would 100% do mass executions of ideological enemies, namely capitalists. And I have evidence for that.
He said he wants to kill all the landlords.
No, not just that. I literally have, in preparation for this debate, I wrote down like 36 different times.
I'll ask you, Connor, if Trump had total power and he had no checks, do you think he would kill political rivals?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. So what's the disparity there?
Okay. Hold on. I want an opportunity to answer this question because I feel like you guys were talking past each other. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I get we're wrapping. All right. So with Trump right now, we have he's a cult-like leader within the Republican Party, but he does have some institutional checks on his power. For the sake of the hypothetical, I presumed in order for Hassan to be of similar power, he would have a similar situation. He's not in total control. We still have Republican checks on the limits of his power, but he has a cult-like following within the left. Okay, that's what I presumed. And what I would say is that his sense of isolationism, his sense of pro-terrorism, his sense of wanting to backstab the Western world, him hating mixed economy capitalism, I think he would be just as large of a danger or more of a danger than Donald Trump. And I can back that up factually.
Okay. I mean,
it sounds said like 50 times he's a Marxist-Leninist. Like it sounds like openly, outwardly said that.
Even if he wasn't, and he was put under the constraint of the government, he would still be super dangerous.
Destiny, you acknowledge that I never said he wasn't a Marxist-Leninist.
But that's essentially like the blueprint for what Stalin did. Yes, it's the he's on the program like championing like Lenin's literature and shit, like overthrowing states and shit. Yeah,
Stephen. I never said he wasn't a Marxist-Leninist. And when I was talking, I want to address, because you put a video of it where I was like addressing some people who are following Hassan and getting his clips, basically where they were talking about this re-education camps. And what was told to me is this is an example of Hassan explicitly in favor of re-education camps. I want to be clear about something. I have now seen the clips of Hassan calling himself a Marxist-Leninist. People have brought that to my attention. I asked these people, do you have clips of himself calling himself a Marxist-Leninist? What's the evidence? What's the strongest evidence? At no point, and there's even something where explicitly I said this, did I say Hassan wasn't a Marxist-Leninist? And I just want to repeat for like the 10th time. I do not like Hassan Piker. He does. And
you don't think, if you think he's an ML, what would the significant difference between his administration and Stalin's?
Well, because I do think that Hassan is not
Lenin. If we want Lenin.
No, Stalin. No, do Stalin.
We'll do Stalin. Because so I think the key distinctions are, I think that if you take a look at the different personalities, that Stalin seems like a worse overall person, has worse people on his ear. I think that Hassan has some friends who I think are generally like good people like Adam Friedland.
Okay, here's a question. First of all,
let me finish. And then in terms of ideology,
in the cabinet.
Wait. I think you agree.
You like Secretary of Defense. Adam Friedland would not be part of Hassan's fucking communist
culturally. I think culturally he's much more likely to be more moderate in terms of the genocidal stuff that Stalin was able to get away with because of the American culture that he's a part of. And so there, and I think also, by the way, that in the context, if we're actually putting real constraints on it, I think the military and the police would be much less apt to do abuses under a Hassan Piker administration than they would under a Trump administration.
Here's a question. If Hassan was the president of the United States and he could push a button and say, Israel has become a one state right now, that will probably lead to a genocide of the Jews there until the majority of them leave. Do you think that he would push that button?
Wait,
yes.
push a button to do what? Sorry?
to turn Israel, Palestine into a single state that would probably result in the next 5 years of some genocide or genocidal campaign against the Jews there until all of them basically leave. Do you think Hassan would push that button?
Yes. Would you push the button for Israel's conduct right now? Do you support Israel's conduct right now?
Fuck no.
Okay,
but also this isn't about me.
You're willing to.
Hold on.
Trump is willing to abide. Trump is willing to abide.
Would you vote for Trump or Destiny as president?
Israel's conduct right now.
Okay.
I would vote for Destiny. I'm honest.
Hold on. No, wait. But hold on. You just said that Stalin being genocidal was a key differentiator between him and Hassan. So Hassan would be genocidal in some cases, right? Depending on who the people are. He probably was into Polish people, right? He said as much.
You're asking it in a context in which for Hassan the trade-off is genocide. The current genocide, he views it as a current genocide. What's going on in Gaza, and I guess the question would just be like, which genocide is entailed no matter what.
Sure, and for Stalin, it was: do we have enough crops to feed the people in Moscow? Do we have enough crops for the people in?
But in terms of the internal, I think there is a significant difference in terms of the internal potentiality for a genocide. And I just want to be clear about something. I don't support Hassan Piker. So let's get to the prescription. I am not trying to build a bridge with Hassan Piker. I don't support Hassan Piker's ideology. I'm not protecting Hassan Piker. How am I protecting Hassan Piker?
Sure. If you want to run the last topic, so like at this point in time, do you admit that there is absolutely zero evidence whatsoever that there was any kind of discriminatory activity towards him in his whole TSA adventure, and then he lied at multiple points about it?
Wait. So I agree he lied, but you and I both agree, didn't you agree that the main reason, the most probable thing that happened on anything else, you said this, was that viewpoint discrimination played a role in his rejection of global entry. You did say that. You said it.
No.
We have it on record.
No. I'm right here. Talk to me. What was the viewpoint discrimination?
Yeah, I'm saying what you said. What you said was.
No, you need to say what I said. You need to quote me from 2 months ago. I'm right here. What's the viewpoint discrimination?
You said something that Hassan said was the most likely reason that he was denied or had his global entry revoked.
That's not viewpoint discrimination, though. That's not viewpoint discrimination. That's content discrimination. If you talk about killing politicians, it doesn't matter. Hold on. Do you think that if Hassan Piker had talked about killing Democrats or whatever, that he also wouldn't have been flagged maybe on global entry if he had a tweet blow up about having a Democratic politician killed?
I'm not sure for the purpose of this.
Wait. You're not sure. I thought you said you were 100% vindicated.
I am vindicated on that. I'm saying I'm not sure as between a Democratic candidate, my what I think would probably happen is that no, he wouldn't be. I don't know is the answer to that. I truly don't know. But
then what's the viewpoint discrimination?
Let me talk about this, right? So content-based restrictions are also subject to strict scrutiny. Do you know that?
Yes, they can be, but viewpoint discrimination is even stricter. It's even stricter. Viewpoint discrimination is almost never going to pass because you're not just saying you can't see you can't kill politicians. You're saying you can't kill a certain type of politician.
My inclination is that if Hassan said that about Bernie Sanders, he wouldn't have had his global entry revoked. That is my inclination, but regardless, it doesn't matter. It's overdetermined. When I say it's overdetermined, I mean it doesn't matter. Like content-based restrictions are subject to strict scrutiny.
Sure, for laws, sure, yes.
But
for expedited entry to global entry, I'm not sure. Let's
just be clear about something. You did agree into that. Something he said before was the most likely reason that he had global entry revoked, correct?
Yes. Do you agree that you can say things that maybe would make it worth it to have your global entry revoked?
Yes, there are certain things you could say that would have it, but okay.
Cool.
But
do you think that one of those things might be talking about killing a politician?
Well, it depends if that is a true, if it is a true threat or not. If it's a true threat, no. So for example, if someone takes something that you said, Stephen, if someone said something that you said, and like what you said, for example, about some of these murders.
Hold on, let me hedge off here. If I got an email, no, because it's stupid. If I got an email and I found out that I got kicked out of global entry because of what I said about the fucking firefighter or whatever, I'd probably be like, sure, yeah. No shit. You think, hold on, I'm gonna go on the internet. You think I'm gonna be like, oh, I can't believe that I can't make death threats about people and they're gonna kick me out of the expedited security screening list?
What if they denied you? What if they denied you a gun on the basis of that opinion?
That would be much different. That's a much stronger. Wait. You're talking about. Hold on. You're talking about a constitutionally guaranteed right versus expedited screening through airplane security. We're not even talking about being.
Let's move on. So, what about a driver's license?
No.
Why not?
This is not. This is not.
Why not?
Not relevant.
Why not?
What evidence do we have that Hassan was discriminated against for for a political reason, for something that we wouldn't ordinarily expect somebody to be kicked out of an expedited security screening program for? Do we have any evidence of that whatsoever? Yes or no?
So I think none of that. Yes. The fact that the most likely statement that you've attributed, and which I probably agree, is like either the Rick Scott comment or the comments on the Houthis in Palestine and Israel. I take all of those to be content-based restriction, viewpoint discrimination that would be insidious and
okay. So
unconstitutional.
you think that somebody outwardly supporting you think that somebody outwardly supporting a terrorist group that's declared a terrorist group that they shouldn't be allowed to be removed from expedited airport security screening?
Yes. So let me ask you a question.
That's fine. Okay.
Let me ask you the question. So with respect to a driver's license, do you think that
I'm not. This is
not
even.
So you're not going to answer. So I'm going to ask you.
If you want to talk about
so you want to answer because you know it's
driver's license? No, because it's a retarded. It's such an unbelievable. No, pivot.
I'm going to ask you the question.
I dodged your pivot. That's right.
What's different? What's different?
I dodged your pivot. I dodged the pivot. I dodged the pivot. I dodged the pivot. I dodged the pivot. I can already say I've already seen this entire conversation. I'm going to say, having a driver's license is a right. You go, well, it's not really. It's a privilege. Yeah, and then is it expedited screening privilege? It's like, is it the exact same thing? Then he's being discriminated against. I've seen the entire argument, and I can already see how fucking retarded it is. How much waste of time it is.
Let's go through it.
You don't need to. You already admitted that you don't think somebody should be able to be kicked off of an expedited security list on an airplane because they talk about killing politicians. That's crazy. I think it's fucking retarded.
Let's go through. Wait. So I'm gonna.
Guys, can you hear me? This is fucking brutal, man. I don't give a fuck about any of this shit. Oh, I got raped. Amphibious Orca says, yeah. Lewisism says, yeah. Full display here. Hello. Tennesseer says, yeah. Red Cube says, hey, bud, just coming over from Destiny Stream, and I want to let you know that you deserve more time. Wish you had the opportunity to give your positions. No problem. I feel like that's fine. I'm the best streamer in the room. That's okay. I'm fucking around, but parasocial love. Fashion 40 became a member. Thank you kindly. Connor, Econoboi, and Wick checked out. Well, dude, no offense. I don't give a fuck about any of this, all right? I really don't. I really don't give a fuck about any of this. So... anyways, the Hutch is looking like Connor at this point, and this is pretty much his baby. True. Should have cut off the Hassan topic before. I'm okay with talking about Hassan. But you kind of agreed to be there, so Marine threw it. Yeah, I'll turn them back on in a second. You did okay. Luckily, you didn't get baited into the endless questions. Dude, I would have fought more, but I felt like, seriously, so the whole point of this conversation was that I wanted to come in and say that, like, Pisco and Econoboi were fucking sweeping for socialists. And instead of being like, no, we're not. Here's all the reasons.
Can someone travel? I'll tell the difference.
Oh, shit. We're back to it. But basically, instead of being like, no, we're not. Instead, they were like, let's sweep for socialists for 2 hours. As a matter of fact, the definition of socialism is not the definition of socialism. Most people are just social democrats. And actually, socialism is super nice. And I'm like, oh, okay. The problem that I was trying to describe was just fundamentally fucking correct. So fucking kill me now. It's actually worse than I thought. That's terrible. Dice says, bro, if we're talking about audience attention, Pisco is the one winning here. Connor, you just got to keep yelling to get the viewers. I don't want to do that, dude. It's cringe. X-Rock says, you're crashing out about a silly statement. I don't know if you're talking to somebody else. I didn't give a fuck about global entry. Me either. I don't care. One of your politeness sessions was 14-minute long. Well, yeah, dude. Passaggero says, why can't people just agree in documented definitions? I don't know. Watching this on mute actually makes this bearable. Thank you. You're welcome. The parasitic far left has brain-rotted people like Pisco and Econoboi into viewing them as not the threat that they are. Yep. Agreed. X-Rock says, my rose drawing looks pretty sweet, though. That's sick.
Okay.
So,
you're right.
Dude, I love how I got raped multiple times for being like, Connor, you're being too hardcore. You're being too loud. Please stop yelling. And then, like, meanwhile, fucking Pisco is just, like, fucking going off for, like, I don't know, 2/3 of the runtime. And then everybody is giving deference to Steven because he's the biggest fucking streamer. So, like, whenever Steven wants to talk, Steven can talk. And then Pisco, we want Pisco to be able to talk because they're the two, like, they're the spurned lovers. But I'm fucking ready for super chats and outros. I'll just be real. I'm ready. Anonymous says, parasocial love, Connor, you were the most bad. I was I felt like my arguments were the most on point. Capital Science says, I like honest socialists. My big pet peeve is the ambiguous socialists who think socialism is just welfare capitalism and then they constantly complain about capitalism. True. Natra says, yeah, Steven, I kind of get, but kind of weird how much time Wick gave Pisco. He's overrated. Yeah, but Pisco and
I want to
Steven
give
are the ones with
I want to
beef.
give Econoboi and Counterpoints a chance to leave if this is what we're gonna do.
Would there be, like, could it have been a random screening because it was 20 minutes long and nothing happened? You agree that nothing bad happened besides him getting asked questions for 20 minutes?
When you say could, what do you mean? Do you mean like could it be, like logically? Is it possible that yes? It's possible
could it have just been? Sure, what's more likely?
I think it's way more likely that his stop at the global entry line had to do because his global entry was revoked. Do you agree?
No.
Okay. I think that being in global entry line when you don't have global entry, that you're being stopped, it's most likely because you don't have global entry, right?
Have you ever traveled
Thank you,
internationally?
Kendra. I appreciate you.
Yes, I have.
If you go to the wrong line, they don't pull you aside for 20 minutes of questioning. They tell you to go to the other line.
Yeah. So
I don't know why you think going into the global entry line, we got to pull this guy aside for expedited questioning. They would just.
So just join the stream. Give me a 2-sentence summary of the debate. Liberals and progressives are being useful dumbasses for socialists.
Gang. This has been a show. We're gonna give the mic to each of these individuals to give closing statements and where you can find them. I have links to all their stuff in my YouTube description. If you've enjoyed the show for whatever reason, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We do stuff like this all the time. It's very fun. I'm going to keep streaming after. They can stay if they want. They can leave if they want. I don't care. I have some things to say. But we're going to give it first to Counterpoints, then we're going to let Pete go out the last word. And then we'll just go around. Go ahead, Counterpoints.
Yeah, so I came into this conversation hoping to discuss the fact that I feel like progressives are sometimes useful idiots for socialists. I also had a pretty clear definition of socialism that I asserted half a dozen times. Instead, I got accused of being a conspiracy nut and that I didn't know history. I feel like I've consistently demonstrated that I have a decent command of history. I also think I have a decent command of the definitions. And while I am a fan of Pisco and Econoboi, despite, maybe any mean words that I said tonight. I do feel like they're being usefully stupid for infinitely more nefarious characters. And that's the position I started with. That's the position that I'm going to end with. If you guys want to fight at a later date or time, I'm happy to do so. And then if you want to find me, Counterpoints 40K is my main channel. That's my Warhammer channel. Counterpoints Politics is where I post the VODs for my streams. Monday through Friday, I am live on a channel called Valor Media Network, VALOR, Media Common Spelling Network Common Spelling. Type that into your search bar, subscribe to it, watch me from 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. EST. And then on Tuesdays, I'm live on my home channel, Counterpoints Politics. But I parasocially love you. I still love you guys, even though I chatted mad shit and used homophobic language. So looking forward to the next one.
Hey, thanks for being here, Counterpoints. We really appreciate you. Go check
Yep,
him out.
yep.
He took time out of his day to come on our show. Give him that courtesy. Destiny, please.
I think it's a good question to ask who we want to include in our Democratic Party apparatus. I think that the majority of this has to do with us as being media figures, so people in the media. I don't think there's anything wrong with including people who have some fundamental base values in agreement that generally revolve around concepts related to liberalism and free market enterprise. I think those are hugely important parts of the United States. I think they're an important part of wealth generation. Even when Econoboi brings up, Norway, and he talks about all the money that they get from their global wealth fund, like the majority of this is invested in literally international stocks from capitalist ran companies. I think that like the defense of capitalism and free market enterprise is an essential.
Saint Ash says, would it be better if the moderator kept everyone muted until they were given the mic? Seems the ability to interrupt each other is doing more harm than good. This is the nature of panels, Saint Ash. You must be kind of new to the Twitch and YouTube political scene. The Twitch and YouTube political scene is actually about very loud crash outs. That's the this is what it's about. It's about people screaming at each other and calling each other stupid for 2 to 3 hours at a time, while an occasional decent point slips out like once every 20 minutes.
Communist manifesto. And when you've got people like that, or people like Aaron saying that they would ban all forms of private enterprise or all forms of private property, I don't think that these are people that you need to ideologically align yourself with, just the same way that I wouldn't ideologically align myself with some third positionist Nazi because he says he also wants social health care. He just only wants it for white people. So he's willing to have it for everybody first until we kick all the black people out. I think that when we talk about who we should include in our movement, I think one of the most important things we should look for is reciprocity. I think that this conversation would be totally...
The brown fat guy won, bro. Big Tech, you're so fucking mean, bro.
Hard on the liberals sometimes, or don't you think that maybe we should be like a little bit nicer to some of these people rather than who the fuck can we primary in the Democratic Party? Who are these like moderate liberals that we can excise? Or like the last show that I just watched before coming on here, where Crystal Ball is literally excoriating a Michigan senator because she doesn't have the.
Oh, I missed that you're retarded. When you are a cuck on race, you lost. Ah, kill yourself. Oh, kill yourself, Big Tech. So rude. You don't like the blacks? You don't like the Hispanics? That's sad.
Okay, thank you for being
Sad.
here. Check out his channel. I don't really
Sad,
know how to
sad,
promote
sad.
him. He's the biggest guy here.
Bud123 says, so
Econoboi.
Pierce is outrage farming with his panels. He purposely does not
Hey,
mute
what's up,
anyone.
guys? I'm
Yep.
Econoboi, econoboi.substack.com.
I wonder where the
If you're
name
interested in
Pisco
any of the
came
writing
from.
That I do. If you want to know what
It's
my
because he
actual
wants to
positions
piss.
are, I did literally write them down in an article series that's now posted. So if you're interested in learning what my real positions are, go over there, econoboi.substack.com. And what I would say about the summary of the debate is this. Number one, Connor clearly actually doesn't know shit about history because he seemed completely unfamiliar with the entire history of actually existing socialist governments outside.
I know this is
of
outros, but go
Asia.
fuck yourself.
Well, I didn't interrupt you. You said I was stupid. I mean, we're just throwing it back. Connor, calm down. So the point is, Connor doesn't actually know shit about history, to be fair, because he was completely unaware about the entire history of actually existing socialist governments in Oceania, and also Europe. So that was just the thing that I tried to add to the debate. When it comes to Connor, when it comes to Destiny, I feel like Destiny really didn't understand my point about Norway and like Nordic institutions. My only point about that is that the U.S. could build domestic sovereign wealth funds easier than Norway because the U.S. has a lot of financial capital available to it, whereas Norway doesn't. Like Norway literally, like the capacity of like the Norwegian financial capital market couldn't handle all their oil wealth. To the extent that it could, I would argue that it probably should, but that's a totally different discussion. On the actual topic of the debate, here's the last thing that I'll say. I do appreciate that it seems.
For those of you who don't know, Big Tech USA is the white nationalist who fucking hung out with Lavloon and they were talking shit about Destiny and shit. So he's trying to rile me up. Hi, Big Tech. Bye, Big Tech.
A statement that all five of us, I guess, actually agree with, that to the extent that people in the media are like militantly anti-democratic party and just like really bad faith with Democrats all the time, and they're trying to just occupy democratic spaces for their own ends and not to try and push forward an electoral movement, we should exclude them from the inner party and from strategic discussions and from platforms like the DNC. I've only said my position, I'll repeat, is that we should take advantage of their platforms insofar as Democrats actually want to like participate in their platforms, not them participate in our platforms. And I think that was just a useful clarification. To the extent that Destiny and Wick are interested, I look forward to the socialism versus capitalism debate in the future, because it seems like the people want that as well. But I'd have fun doing it anyway. It was really fun, guys, and there was a lot of useful clarification, I feel like.
Yeah, just because Big Tech was rude, I'm gonna make even more Jewish friends.
You're a bitch. No, I'm just kidding. But I do love you too.
Okay,
anyway.
Thank you for being here. You can check out his Substack. I have linked it in my YouTube description, and you can find him streaming on Live and Learn and other podcasts. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Pisco.
Yeah, as I predicted, I don't think there's a ton of substantive disagreement here. I think at the heart of this is some kind of semantic confusion or a debate about what the term socialism means, what the term communist means, and these different subcategories of people. And there, I just think that there's a bizarre interpretation and special pleading, really, from Connor and Stephen. That socialism doesn't include single payer. Well, if use is meaning, that's people call that socialized medicine. Socialism doesn't include places like
this is so retarded.
China. People use that term that way. The major socialist figures in the Democratic Party wouldn't be considered by most people who use the term socialism.
I have Jewish friends. They don't borrow money. I'm so
that's
good.
Kind of a semantic disparity without much significance.
I'm so good.
Actually,
my Jewish friends lend me money.
Here. When it comes to Marxist-Leninists and the people, when we use the term like tanky to refer to people who like substantively don't believe in our constitutional order, or who substantively want to get rid of the rights that we hold dear, there's a full agreement. We don't agree that those people should be making decisions. We don't agree that they should be in the halls of power. I think
Pisco swept like a motherfucker for the socialists, and he jumped on 3 or 4 rhetorical rakes.
That's fine. So I don't think that
all my Jewish friends owe me money, dude. You need better Jewish friends.
But it seems like there's like a special pleading, I'm going to say, for the kind of prescription. okay, we should kick out people with a socialist label, but just in the media space, not people who are politicians. If they're politicians out of the ticket, you shouldn't let the socialist label scare you away. But certainly, like, we should kick out Econoboi from Live and Learn because he uses the socialist term label. But is that more of a problem with the name of the show being Live and Learn? Is that the problem, or is the problem that he uses the socialist label at all? And so what actually is the problem here? Is the problem that we were too tonally respectful to the vanguard when we were discussing? I want to sort of stress again how to best implement the Biden agenda. It wasn't a discussion of.
Yeah, dude, I'm not gonna lie. The things that I remember was like him trying to own me on food versus healthcare, and that obviously just being so wrong. I wanted him to say that he misspoke, but he like tripled down on it. And then I'm trying to think of the other one. There was at least two more that I thought I was like, oh, he's just wrong on this shit. Oh yeah, he was talking about like it was something in reference to socialism. It was something that he was just like flat out wrong on about like the definitions. Where it's like the vast majority of socialism throughout history has been a bunch of like peaceable movements, blah blah blah. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Like, I want to just stress, I do not like Hassan Piker. I never said Hassan Hamas Piker, whatever you want to call him, wasn't a Marxist-Leninist. On the specific semantic disagreement about like
Thank you, Anonymous.
communism versus Marxist-Leninism, I think that's an interesting semantic discussion. I think that Stephen and Counterpoints are probably wrong about that, but I don't think that that's anything about what's going on here. This is not about those distinctions. It's not about our distinctions on the First Amendment and should viewpoint discrimination matter for.
Yeah, it's whether or not you sweep for socialists.
What's going on here is, frankly, this is my opinion, realistically, these guys hate Hassan for probably good reasons, some good reasons. And so we're all just trying to get at that and calibrate our ideology and our rules and our prescriptive rules on that specific thing. And I don't think any of it has to do with like major substantive disagreements on the merits. And I think that that was shown today.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here, gang.
Damn, did we just lose Steven?
I think he got bored.
That was rude. I'm a professional. I stayed till the end.
Well, thank you. But if you need to leave, you may. I have some people who want to come in and talk and things like that. You could stay if you'd like.
Are any of them Aaron?
Why not? Why not? Okay, let's bring on some people.
I got a Dev, but
2 callers.
Oh shit, it's Dev. I guess I got to stay and wait.
Dev and history speaks. Couple of famous caller-ins.
Famous caller-inners. Okay, hi guys, you're live.
And you're muted, both of yous.
Yeah, well, that's on your ends, gang. I'm not sure. We're gonna get to super chats at the end of the stream, gang. I will read super chats. It will be at the end of the stream. Don't worry.
Hello.
Did not
How's
miss
it
the
going?
super chats. Yeah. Hello, Dev.
That was a shit show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty great.
I thought it was fun.
I thought it was absolutely hilarious.
And Destiny, thank you for the raid on YouTube. I really appreciate you. Okay.
Oh, that's sweet.
So Destiny's watchers are watching.
Dev, I am hungry. Do you have anything that I need to address?
I don't think so. If you want to go eat.
Okay. I parasocially love you guys. Looking forward to the next fight. Sorry for using homophobic language and ableist language.
Cool.
I'll catch you next time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please, super chats. All right, we got a few chats during the thing. We got Niz for $10 says I can't take it anymore. Going to rewatch the Iron Within breakdown. Good luck. Thank you, Niz. Fashion 40 for $10 says thank you for taking this seriously. Really disappointed with the moving the goalposts of Econoboi and the straight belligerence of the Pisco. It's all good. It's funny. At least people have some new content to fucking watch. The Devil says, time to ask the Hassan on October 7th question, which honestly, I think that piece, as soon as I said that I had receipts for Hassan being a piece of shit, Pisco ran away from that. The Devil became a member. Zyrenthius became a member. Thank you kindly. Fashion 40 became a new member as well. Thank you for that. We've actually had quite a lucrative day. So I parasocially love you guys. When are they bringing in Arch Warhammer? No idea, but that would be fire. Chris, the Extreme Kiwi Hufford says, right now, Connor, before you leave, what are you eating? I'm eating orange chicken with ramen. Should be fucking fire. Grassroots says, Connor, Jew friends invite him to the secret Jew meeting. It's true. I'm very nice. I get to go to the Jew meetings. Dude Who Does Stuff says, it was fun watching liberals sweep for socialists in this debate. No, it wasn't. I wanted to kill myself. Thank you for saying that, though. SVH says, I came from Destiny's chat. What a frustrating listen. Well, thanks for coming over and dropping by. Be sure to subscribe here. Also, be sure to go to Valor Media Network, VALOR, Media Common Spelling Network, Common Spelling. I'll be live tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Christian Blair says, have a good night, Connor. In chat, I have all day work meetings this week, but I'll be around until next time. Love you, Christian Blair. Thank you for being here since the beginning. Corey CCI says, from Destiny with Love. Thank you. Please subscribe. Please go over to Valor Media Network and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. if you have the time to hang out. Brandon says, DGG, good to see you. Raman says, good show, Connor. That was fun. I think so, too. I also think that, like, I butted in enough in order to fight, but not so much that I didn't let Steven and Pisco have prolonged periods to fight. So I think I struck a good balance with how many times I insisted upon talking during the panel. And I also pointed out whenever Pisco would roll his fucking eyes as soon as I started talking, I was like, fuck you, it's a panel, bitch. And every time that Econoboi was like, you're interrupting me. It's like, yes, I'm interrupting you, but it is a panel. So throw a fucking elbow and tell me to shut the fuck up, right? FSVH says, counterpoints before you leave. Why was the moderator so weak? Wick runs the show where he tries to leave it enough of a shit show that we can get stuff done. It's not quite Dylan Burns style. And also the other thing that I'm not criticizing Wick hardcore. I like Wick plenty, and I think he does a good job of bringing good personalities from around the space onto a central panel show to fight. But I do miss the Dylan Burns rule set. I do miss the Dylan Burns rule set. I'll say that. Now I got to try orange chicken with ramen. It's excellent. Amphibious Orca says, I love some sweet and sour chicken and pork. Yep. I had pork fried rice and honey chicken wings. That is fire, dude. As soon as Steven said, what if a bunch of people come in and start saying that we just need to get wings? I was like, shit, I need some fucking wings. Saul says, see you, Connor. In chat, take care. See you, buddy. Thanks for hanging out. Dice5 says, man, first half of the panel was some of the best shit. Good. Good. Kendra says, you really did. Thank you. Corey CCI says, yes. True. Bud123 says, I've been missing most of the streams. I've been busy teaching an introductory physics course. Dude, that's awesome. Congratulations. Seriously. Bathory Dusk says, you provided good pushback and kept me laughing. Good. I try. The Devil says, was too much masculine energy in the panel? Oh, I don't think so. Grassroots says, yay, Dev. Yeah, if you want to go watch Wick or go watch any of the other boys, I won't be offended. Jim's Corner says, you were great, Connor. Thank you. Dice5 says, you got to let Pisco roll his eyes instead of stopping the combo to get more quips in. Nope. I'll stop the combo and call out fucking his Valley Girl bitchy behavior every single time. Fashion 40 says, will we be going over this tomorrow? Probably not. I participated in it. I don't think I would want to do that again. If I had to subject myself to that level of fucking brain damage again, I would be furious. Now, if Pisco or Econoboi or any of the Live and Learn guys or anybody who's in the space wants to talk about it as kind of like a post-debate recap convo, I would do that. But I would not. I probably wouldn't watch it again. Pisco was unhinged and wrong on so many levels. Well, he's putting on a show too. Mr. Connor Prance, have you read the new 40K book, Bound of the Silent King? I can't get enough Necrons or Call. No, but I did read Infinite in the Divine, and I loved it. I loved it with my whole body. Sin Petty says, was good, great time, great shit, Connor. Thank you. I live to serve. SVH says, I disagree with some stuff coming from an ANCAP viewpoint, but you are a great source of perspective. I look forward to more from your commentary. Well, thank you for dropping by, SVH. I appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out. Brandon says, I hate how socialist media is willing to destroy our country over Gaza. Yup. Dice5 says, then call him a Valley Girl bitch while you do it. Okay, I will. Dice5 says, grab the viewers. True. Jonah Zilla says, I want to say I appreciated you on Destiny's podcast and pushing against the point that games should cost more. I hate when people say that. You said pretty much what I would have. Yeah, dude. He doesn't give a fuck about the wages anymore. Very sad. Very sad. Jack Darko says, lol, maybe if you're nicer next time, they'll let you talk more. No, the opposite. I have to throw more elbows. Bathory Dusk became a new member. Thank you for that. Okay. I parasocially love each and every one of you. There's 160 people in chat, and we had 200 people earlier today. And you guys were quite generous in the earlier stream, so I want to thank you. Also, if you're new here, coming over from Steven just to say hi or whatever, then hello. But type in Valor Media Network into your search bar, VALOR, Media, Common Spelling, Network Common Spelling, and I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. I'm going to go eat some food. So, bye for now.